Hello and welcome to the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. I am Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hey, it's me. I'm here.
And we got Suriel Vasquez here.
Here, also present.
Mm-hmm. And then Janet Garcia.
Hello.
Welcome, Janet. Janet and I just got done recording Kind of Funny Games Daily. And Janet was the host and knocked it out of the park. It was
thanks.
Just a delight. How nervous were you, scale of 1 to 10? Because you came across as perfectly cool.
Probably a 6 or 7.
Okay.
I'm really trying to work on not being nervous because it's really not that deep. But I never come off nervous, which is a great skill to have. But I was I literally had, I mentioned I had those Resident Evil nightmares. Yeah. I had a nightmare that I went through the whole show and never did the stuff that wasn't just the news. I missed the games list, the ad, and it was coming up on the 1 hour mark, and then I just started reading as fast in my dream, just as fast as I could for everything else. And and I was thinking in the dream, I'm why didn't any of the why did the producer not tell me anything? Then I woke up and I'm oh no, the worst thing happened in my dream, and also it's not real, and also it was also fine for some reason. So this isn't that deep.
Everything will be fine.
So the nightmare helped kind of level it all out, but it was fun.
It was super fun. You did a great job. You can check that out over on Kind of Funny's YouTube channel or in the podcast feed. This is a big show. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up. First of all, let's get right to it. Let's officially announce the next deepest dive. No one saw this one coming. Suriel, give me that juicy drum roll, baby.
Were you
going to say a drum roll?
I thought I was going to announce it for some reason, but then it took me a while to process what you were saying.
And that sound of Suriel speaking is our drum roll for the next deepest dive, being officially Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 1, everybody. We're going to be creating the best, most thorough discussion about Mass Effect 1 on the internet with the deepest dive. The game comes out May 14th, the remaster specifically. You don't have to play that. You can play the old version. That's totally fine. But everyone's going to be talking about Mass Effect, celebrating Mass Effect, and we want to be a big part of that discussion. We're very much looking forward to it. And so the first discussion will be airing on May 19th. So we'll be looking for your comments on the first chunk of Mass Effect 1 on May 17th. So if you support us at any tier on Patreon, any tier whatsoever, you can play along and submit a comment and we'll read it during our discussions. It's going to be a very fun time. So we're breaking it up into 3 sections. The first section, basically stop when you leave the Citadel. When you're leaving the Citadel, that is your time to stop, and then jump over to Patreon and submit a great comment for us to read on air. We'll be announcing the panel for that next week, but it's a very fun panel for the deepest dive. So I hope you all enjoy it, and I hope you join us in creating the best, most thorough discussion about Mass Effect 1 on the internet. It's going to be a fun time. So let us know if you have any questions about how the deepest dive works, but we're looking forward to that. Also, Kyle, that's enough announcements for one show, but we say nay. We say we can do more on this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, because later on in this very episode, we will be joined by a certain somebody who is the newest official voice within the MinnMax family. I won't reveal who it is until they clap in, but we will have a big reveal about a new voice and a new initiative, some would say, at MinnMax. So please look forward to that. Kyle, please look forward to it.
I will.
Okay, great. Resident Evil Village. Let's talk all about it. Suriel Vasquez, you reviewed it for Polygon, yes?
Correct.
Okay.
I did.
And Janet Garcia, you are playing it. How far are you in this thing?
I am almost at the end, I think, and hope. Not because I am not enjoying it, just because I'm I want to see the credits roll. But yeah, I'm pretty close to the end.
Okay.
Are you getting to the point where you're running out of saves? Because that game only has 20 save slots, and I was trying to market different points of progress.
Oh, see, I kind of went rogue a little bit, and I'm using 4 save slots, but the bottom 2 are really old. So I'm really only using the top 2, and the top 2 are identical in case one gets corrupted or something. I don't know. That's my logic.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then Kylie Hilliard.
Is saving tied to an item?
No, you just have to find
a typewriter.
You just have to find a typewriter. You don't have to use ink ribbons or anything like that.
That's all I need to know. Thanks.
Kyle, your job is to sync up with me just as somebody who's looking forward to this game and curious about this game, yes?
Yes. I think one thing to kick it off with is the best news that I've heard is the length isn't overbearing. I hear it's a nice compact Resident Evil, which is like the best news that I've heard.
Not Resident Evil 3 level compact, but how long is this thing, Serial?
I've spent about 12 hours with it, but I think it's probably closer to 10 because I had like a couple of instances where I was like, okay, I've cleared out the castle, except there are like, 2 or 3 rooms that are still red. And I spent way too much time trying to find it. The one tip I will say that I don't think spoils anything is you want to look up sometimes because there are things you can find that are higher than you expect, let's say. And that I missed a couple of items because I just didn't grok that for a while. But
yeah. Kyle, what is the number one thing you want to know about Resident Evil Village?
Well, I mean, the base question was, is it good? Should I be excited about it?
Great question, Kyle.
Should I eagerly wake up early on Friday morning and play Resident Evil 8?
You're over asking the question now right now, but it was a good instinct.
No, I need to know if it's good. Is it good,
I'd like to hear more versions of this question.
Yeah, I would like to tell, I don't want to tell you how to run your life, Kyle. I don't know what schedule you have. I don't know if you want to wake up and neglect your daughter for this game, but I will tell you that this is the top line takeaway is this is maybe my favorite Resident Evil since 4.
Oh, does that include the remakes?
Yeah, I think I definitely like this one more than the recent remakes, which is like the RE2 remake was great and the 3 less so. But I think that it's maybe I would say that my top 3 are probably 4. And then this is fighting with the remake of the original.
Okay. So reviews are
the original. Not 2.
The RE remake. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is fascinating. So reviews are positive. I think you're on the higher end of that. Yeah,
I'm definitely hotter than a lot of people on this game for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that just comes from your love of 4 and this game is very much trying to have a lot of 4 flavor injected in here?
I think so. I think that, the thing that I go into in my review is that this series has always been it started off as a horror thing and then slowly became more action oriented. And I think a lot of people are kind of rightly miffed by that because that felt they're kind of adding action at the cost of horror. And this is definitely more action based than 7 was, because 7 was definitely a much slower game. And this definitely adds more action. But I'm someone who really loves 4, so this is exactly kind of up my alley. But I do want to say that it feels more horror based than 4. I think this is more of a horror game than 4 is, for sure.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that first person perspective helps a lot.
Okay, reading the headlines and the reviews, it seems like it had a lot more 6 DNA in it than I was expecting, just from reviews.
Yeah, and I think that to me is maybe the game's biggest triumph is that it does both of those extremes really well. There's a boss fight towards the end that is just the most ridiculous thing I've maybe done in a Resident Evil game, and it just feels what the hell? What is going on and what am I doing? But there are also so many moments of just that low key kind of creeping horror that that made the series what it is. So it's the fact that both of those can exist in harmony in a way without feeling this is ridiculous, this is out of tone for this series or this game, I feel is the thing that this game does so well.
Horror.
I think one thing that helps with that, especially in that kind of middle section, presumably middle, because once again I haven't gotten to the very end, is I'm a bit colder on the game than you are. I'm someone that came in at 7, and then I did 2 remake, and those are my only Resident Evil games that I fully played. I spent an hour or so with 4, and as a kid I was adjacent to the remake. I'm oh, I see this is happening, but it's too scary for me, so I didn't want to do it. So I have a very different perspective, as where my Resident Evil fandom comes from and what I like about it. I think one thing that helps balance the action and the horror is it is way more action oriented. I was surprised when I was I should use these bullets because they kind of want me to. I mean, there's, definitely incentives for different types of runs as usual with trophies and things, but it took some getting used to that I could use bullets and that it made sense to hey, maybe I can craft handgun ammunition and that's not a total waste because I don't need to make a bunch of necessarily really powerful weaponry later. I also found it a little bit on, a couple of different reviews have talked about the boss battles being a little underwhelming, and I would have to agree with that. I like that from this perspective of I'm not good at shooting, so I'm I don't really want to be challenged anyway, but I was a little taken aback because I felt fairly challenged. I played on standard difficulty when I did 7 and when I did RE2 remake, and they felt a lot more grandiose. I remember doing a few battles where I'm I guess this counts as a boss, or I guess this is, I mean, sometimes it's very clear because of who it is, but I'm oh yeah, I guess this was something. And the first few big encounters you have, I remember kind of being oh, that's it.
Right.
This wasn't too hard, and I was a little taken aback by that. But I think it does a decent job at balancing out the action with some horror, because just while I was getting kind of comfortable with like, okay, I see what this game is. It's hitting a lot of formulaic elements of Resident Evil, which I do love. You know, I love how they structure their puzzles. I like walking around old houses, opening drawers. But then there's a point where something really did horrify me. And I'm like, okay, this game knew that I was like, it's not even that scary. It's not that special. It's not that memorable. And then it kind of hit me with something that I was like, all right, this game has some hands. So I do think there's some really bright spots, even if you're a little bit colder on it. Like, you will find some things to really be like impressed by.
Yeah.
I definitely think those boss fights are like, they're maybe a little bit simpler than people might remember. But I think going back through 4 and then 7, this feels totally in line with those, because like those boss fights, I think maybe were scarier because they were more novel. But I think that in terms of like, oh, if you figure out like this particular thing, or just like go in with the expectation that you're going to use up your like strongest ammo, like, yeah, you can tear through them pretty quickly, which is the case in both 7 and 4. But I think to speak about what you mentioned about like having to remember to use bullets, it was kind of this reminder that 7 definitely had to remind you that you also were shooting things, because like in 7 the only enemies you really fought were the mold guys, right? Like there's maybe like some bugs that you have to knife, but it's like it is those mold guys, the bigger version of those mold guys, and like bees. Like those are the bad guys in Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, the 3 horrors.
Oh.
Yeah, those were 3 of the 3 plagues, right?
Yeah.
But like this definitely feels more robust as an action game, in that there is an upgrade system. You know, you go in and you have to upgrade your shop. Or you have to upgrade the weapons at a shop, and you can buy new weapons and stuff. So it has a lot of that stuff from 4. But yeah, like it feels really well paced in that it will do things like what Janet said, which is like, here's a horror thing that you just weren't expecting right after a boss fight, that you like, after you beat a boss, you're like, okay, I'm on top of the world. I killed this thing. And so you don't expect to be scared because you feel so empowered. And that the game is really good about surprising you basically throughout the entire runtime.
That's interesting.
I have a question about the story. I have always found Resident Evil's story to be very stupid, but like undeniably engaging. Do you think it hits that sort of complimentary way of talking about the story?
I mean, insofar as it makes like for some interesting moments, I think it does accomplish that. But I think the overall arc is like not great, because like I think Ethan Winters' story I just don't find super compelling. I don't think he's like a great protagonist, and they definitely lean into like, you know, like what the trailer does is like, oh, everyone says his name, right, as if it's some big and as if he's like some important character, right? And I don't think this game really does right by that idea. And I never, even by the end, got the idea that like, yeah, I really like Ethan Winters. He's such a compelling character. I don't think it ever, like, even like, you know, Chris Redfield is not like one of the best written characters in fiction, but it's like he kind of endears himself. Like most of these protagonists endear themselves. But I don't think Ethan
it's
Winters
always
really
dumb.
does
Like
that.
Leon he's a nothing, but like I like him, you know? Like that's always how I feel about Resident Evil, is like, this is stupid. It basically doesn't make sense, but damn it, I want to see what happens next.
I think what's
you know?
interesting about RE too is like I think the plot so far of this game is, I'm more interested in it than I was of 7. I think because like, and it is a thing I love, or when you start it up, it's like, would you like to know what happened in 7? If you didn't play it, you should click it. And I did play 7, but I'm like, let's hear the story again, because I don't really remember the details.
Let's hear what you think happened.
Yes, what did you? It's like, I know, but just for everyone else in my living room, you know, it's like, it's not for me. It was for me. But I love that because it was a nice refresher. And I think the thing that's strong about this story is you have questions that, at least to some degree, slowly get answered. And I enjoy that part, because I think that's the extent to which Resident Evil stories can engage me, of like, I wonder what's going on here. What's happening with this character? Why am I really in this village? What's happened with the village? And like, throughout my playthrough, I feel like I had updates on the story, like versus like, I think sometimes Resident Evil can fall into a thing of, hey, it's just it's just something scary is happening. It's probably some virus or some disease, which is still like true to an extent, right? It's always kind of the same reasoning, but it has more layers in terms of the characters involved and what their intentions are. And it made me curious about different characters and what their roles were. I think as far as stupidity, for me, the dumbest elements of the story are, I guess, just how like powerful Ethan is, because he can like live all the stuff. That's a little silly. And then the individual dialogue lines are very cheesy, because like it'll even be stuff like after a boss battle, he'll be like, without me actually swearing, he'd be like, "You're damn right." It's just like stuff like that really just makes it feel like it's heavy-handed and a little schlocky. Not a bad thing, but as soon as there's a really interesting plot point, and then at one point someone just goes, "Yeah, they're crazy," and I'm like, okay, well, you didn't really have a good story to tell here, huh? You didn't. I thought you were going to take me on this journey, and you were just like, stuff's wild, man. I don't know.
What's happening.
Yeah, there's definitely like at the end, there's some interesting tidbits about like, okay, this, here's what has been going on, the entire time. And then like at the end, there's it has a post-credits stinger that I think is really strong. That like leaves me pretty curious about where the series as a whole is going.
That's interesting. What about the number one headline for Resident Evil Village? Without spoiling anything, does Big Lady D, I was going to say satisfy, but you can't say anything without it just sounding weird and fetishistic. Is she cool? She's a little disappointing in that regard, because like I think there are people who are going to come into this game having not seen much of it and said like, oh yeah, this is the Lady Dimitrescu game, right? Like from what I've seen, she's like the antagonist, the protagonist, the setting, the soundtrack. She's everything about this game.
She's the moment.
So like she is to make another parallel to 4, she is like a Salazar. Like she is kind of like the boss of a domain. Right. And so there are more, and she is one of those, right? So I think the fact that she is not the main antagonist, I think is going to maybe disappoint people. And the other thing is that like she is, they mentioned it in one of the roundups they did, is that she's basically like Mr. X, but I think that formula doesn't work as well here because she's kind of isolated and she's way more predictable. So by the end of it, it's like, I'm not afraid of her. I just need her to get out of this doorway. So I'm going to run back to the save point, wait for her to walk the other way, and then move forward.
Also,
so
am I tripping? Or in RE2 remake, wasn't the shtick that even the save rooms weren't safe? Am I making that up? I don't remember if...
I think you can peek inside, and there's definitely the possibility that like if you play it on like the highest difficulty, that some of that might change, because this is definitely one of those games where they want you to replay it multiple times. And I haven't gotten up to the highest difficulty yet, but yeah, it seems like the AI is very exploitable and kind of predictable here.
Yeah,
and
I think also...
kind of a bummer.
The design too, like it's funny because like everyone comes into these games wanting different things, so it'll just depend on like what kind of experiences you want to have. I think the game itself is like well designed, and I think it is at least a good game. Like even at the most critical, I feel like even me being negative, it's still, this is good, which I think is something to be excited about. But yeah, as far as like the stalking element, it was very, very minimal, which I thought was fine, but then at the same time, it's kind of like, well, why even have it in there? So it felt kind of like half baked. The way the areas are designed, you can kind of, and she's very tall, right? You can see her coming from a mile away. I literally would sometimes open a door.
Is that why Serial is telling us to look up? Was that what that tip was for?
That's right, because sometimes she'll just be there.
My eyes are up here, sir.
Like, I'll open a door and like she's there and she's like coming after me, and I'm like, okay, and then I just like, especially the save room one, or like there's an area that has an elevator, and I'm like, don't hang out in the elevator for a couple minutes while this podcast plays in the background until she's gone. No, I never once, I don't know about your Serial, but I never got like even close to killed by her, or I never felt in danger. And she also doesn't start doing that sequence until like
towards the
later
end.
In that area. So it's also like, by the way, like you got a stalking character, and then they're like, oh, no, not really. And then they're also like, oh, you're done with the area. So I think I was disappointed in her appearance, in the sense that, not her actual appearance, but, in the sense that, like, she doesn't play as big of a role, and she's such an interesting character that I thought, and I don't know, you're kind of led to believe that she would play a bigger deal into it, yeah. But I was actually excited by the fact, with the way the game was broken out, and the game has, like, a very obvious nod to, like, maybe there'll be more areas like this pretty early in its design, just from, like, if you interact with all the objects. So, yeah, I like that structure, and so far, I don't really have... I've played through most of the areas, and I don't really have like an area that I feel is necessarily super weak or anything by any means. Cyril, I don't know how you felt like the pacing versus something like 7 too, where there is a very distinct drop off for 7 at least.
Yeah, that is one of the other things that I really like about it, is that, as much as, I can say that Lady D is kind of a disappointment gameplay wise, it feels fine because it is one of like several ideas and sequences and set pieces that this game is just constantly tossing off at you. Like you said, I don't think there's like a part of this game that I think is like bad. I only think that, the Lady D stuff is maybe among the, like in the lower half, but that's still like fine, because there are so many other parts that I can say like, this is such a good moment. And there are like so many ways that this game kind of plays with you. Like there are moments where you're like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this part again from Resident Evil 4 or from like 7 or from 1. And it's like, oh, are you guys repeating this bit? And the way they repeat it is like so different from what you expected. Where you'll come into a section thinking it's going to be predictable, but it's like you don't know how this is going to go. And there are also like side stuff, which is weird. Like it is. Yeah. There are secrets in this game that you have to go out of your way to find. And there are just like things where it's like, oh, okay, I know how this is going. Like I get this thing and it's like, ooh, like you'll uncover me later. And then you get the thing and it becomes such a larger part of the game than you thought it was. And it's totally optional. And so if you're not looking at your map, there's just straight up a gun that I missed. That's from what I saw, like a really good gun. And like there are like optional bosses, which is like ridiculous.
Oh, that's really cool. I read in your review that basically it's exactly what we feared, and that the merchant guy, the Duke, who's like the bigger guy, that it's just a lot of him being like, nom nom, feed my tummy, a lot of that crap.
It is. I mentioned I tweeted that it's like one of the most aggressively bad examples of an overweight character in a video game, because it's like, he is like, oh, I can barely fit in the wagon that I'm moving across, this area in. It's like, here's a room where it's like, I've basically set up a table and all these things are decorated around me. That's how big I am. And like the upgrade system is you're killing farm animals and they'll give you like meat, and they're like rare animals that you can find. And it's like you're making food for him, and then he eats the food, and then his leftovers are how you get more health, which is like, and it's like all of his lines are constantly like, oh, I love to eat, and that's cool. Like it is so frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, I wish it was verbatim like that, because that would be even like worse / funnier. But yes, it's like a fancy, how like, especially with the setting, it's like a fanciful version of that. It's that statement that Cyril said, but in cursive, It's like, a meal is, one is never quite satisfied. Like those kind of, that kind of energy, yeah.
And there's just things where like one of his idle animations is just like he'll just wake up and like, and you'll hear him like masticating and stuff. It's so aggressively bad, but like he gives you the upgrades that you want. So it's like you gotta talk to him, and usually he means that there's a
small businesses, like that's what it's funny, because
that's right.
Cyril, how long did it take you to spend money in this game? Because I am an aggressive item hoarder and I don't want to spend anything, and I'm like, maybe there'll be cooler stuff later. Plus they do give you some free upgrades too, like as far as weaponry, so I'm like, I wasn't selling anything. I'm like, I earned this random crystal skull that isn't combinable and isn't even valuable, and I don't want to get rid of it. So it took me a long time to like break away from that. How did you kind of approach like that upgrade system, and like what'd you like or not like about it?
Yeah, once I saw that like the game will tell you which items are combinable, I think I definitely went a little more like invested in the idea that like, you get a thing, you get like a perfect crystal skull, which is like an item that drops from enemies, like, and that's worth like 30,000. Okay, I can sell that. I can safely sell that, but it did definitely take a little while before it's like, what should I be spending my money on? Because you can buy limited amounts of ammo in this game, which not even 4 let you do. But it is pretty expensive. It's like 1,000, whatever the currency is, lei, per like shotgun bullet. So it's like not something you can just, stock up on real quickly, and you're not going to need it a bunch. But, there are weapon upgrades and things like that. So that stuff is like pretty well fleshed out to make it an action game. But yeah, I think overall, like everything about this game does work really well in tandem with each other. I just think that if you're looking for like, I want a horror game where I really can't do much and like I have to run away from the monsters, that's not what this game is. It's way less than that than even 7 was. But I like the idea that towards the end of the game, there are just encounters that I had a bunch of stuff. Like I had mines, I had, pipe bombs, I had a grenade launcher, but there are just fights in that game that I didn't want to do because they felt like they were, you get into a situation where it's like, this is completely effed. I don't know what, like, this is just from a conceptual standpoint and from what the game is asking me to do. It just feels like I don't want to do this, but it's like satisfying when you actually do get to pull it off.
Oh, weird. So overall, this is a good job Capcom situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Hey, good job.
I feel like it's a fine job.
Okay, and a fine job, Capcom.
One quick thing before we move on, though, because it's funny whenever there's episodes like this where it's like the embargo just lifted, no one else has gotten to play it, and it's like, I'm like, and then events transpired, and like me and Cyril know what we're talking about, but like it's very vague for everyone else. I think one concrete thing that we can just like briefly touch on, that isn't like a spoiler at all and doesn't, ruin anything for people who haven't played it. I love the just overall game structure of this, like having the village as sort of your home base that you keep going to when you come back from these open areas. is so satisfying as someone that loves the walking sim elements of Resident Evil. And yes, if you're someone that hates walking sims but loves Resident Evil, yeah, you probably like walking sims, because that's a lot of Resident Evil. You're just walking around, finding things, you're reading notes. Like, y'all can't tell me this is not a narrative game with guns. Like, it absolutely is. And I have the lack of shooting skills to prove that it is designed to be that way, which I love about it. You know, they have a lot of different interesting environments, but like once the animals like kind of started appearing and then I could do that with my upgrades, I really fell in love with that loop. I spent so much time just like crouched down in a lake stabbing fish. And I'm like, this might be game of the year. Not literally, because I still don't think the game is like that fire, but I just had a really good time doing stuff like that. And I guess one thing I kind of appreciate is, even though it is more action oriented and, you know, pushing you to that, like there are still different levels at which you can engage with the Resident Evil world in Village. And I really appreciate that element of it. And I like the ways that the village kind of slowly changes over time based on, one, the enemies that appear in the village. Like over time, you see like different ones that start appearing. And then two, you know, as you get different items like a crank for the well or like a thing to open this door, like it has so many wonderful moments where things click for you. And I find that very satisfying. Like as soon as you get certain objects, you're like, this is going to go there. And then that's going to get me this weapon or this thing I can sell or whatever. And I like that it all feels very layered. And I am truly compelled to find like everything in here. And I get really into it, even though at this point near the end, I'm like, we're just going to leave the stuff there. Like if I didn't find it, I didn't find it. But the village structure, I think, is just so good. And what's one thing I'd really love to see stay. I liked having that kind of home base and a place to get my bearings and explore and keep finding new loot.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like instead of like kind of the entry to the police station or something as like being the home base, about it just being like this entire village that you're branching out from.
Yeah, and it's like surprising how far in advance it'll tease that stuff out. Like there's a door in the demo that you don't even get to unlock until like the last couple hours of the game. It's like cool. It's like one of the final areas, and so every time you go back to the village, like the time of day is different. There's new stuff that you can unlock. So yeah, like that. I really like that. Like what Janet said, like that home base structure of like you're coming back to the village multiple times.
Yeah, Resident Evil Village, everybody. You can check out Serial's review over there on Polygon, but I am looking forward to it more now. So thank you for your... Thank you for informing me about this game.
Service.
Yeah, and I'm also like at the point where it's like I've beaten the game, but I want to go back to it multiple times because it's like it does what like, you know, even RE5 did, where it's like, okay, we're gonna put you up against impossible odds on the higher difficulties, but then you can unlock like infinite ammo for the shotgun. So it's like infinite ammo for the shotgun versus, you know, like professional difficulty.
Oh, unrelated, but just in honor of this, I brought out my Resident Evil T-Virus Antidote energy drink that I got from like the Pop Culture Museum in Seattle. I've never drank it. I don't really plan to. Maybe I'll drink it on Friday when I stream the game, but it's probably very disgusting, and I don't think it actually prevents. Again,
T-Virus.
It is red, so it is red. So I'm guessing cherry. God, it says copyright 2018, so I'm so afraid.
Copyright
TBD on this, but I try to bring out dumb things I have that relate to what we're talking about. So this is my dumb thing that I brought for today.
We appreciate it. Hey, speaking of loving the loop of returning to the village, Kyle, you had a hot tweet where we talked about Returnal last week, but you were playing it. And before the discussion last week, you said, please tell me whether or not I'll like this game. And I think I said nay. And then it turns out the answer is yay. You do like Returnal after all?
Yeah, you were wrong.
Yep, frequently.
How dare you try to deter me from spending money on a video game?
$70. What do you like about it so much?
What tweet are you talking about? Did I just say I liked Returnal?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Classic Kyle. Yep.
Special tweets.
Classic Kyle.
Talking about.
I won't shut up about my kid. And I don't like roguelikes. Like, those are my defining features, right? But something happened, man. Like, I think it's Undermine's fault. Where, like...
Oh, weird.
Yeah, like, I liked Hades. I played and beat Hades, but it didn't, like, light my world on fire. But Undermine, like, it was weird. It totally wrapped me up, and, like, I played it and beat it, and, like, I fell in love with it. And I think that has weirdly primed me to be, like, ready to sort of appreciate the genre more. And Returnal is like really clicking with me. Like, I really like it a lot. Just I mean, like, it's what I think we want from Metroid ultimately, that we're just not getting from Nintendo, which is like high production value with, you know, basically wholesalely ripping off like Alien and Aliens like universe. I mean, it just feels like that. And then there's also this like sense of like item discovery and reward that I frankly don't get from Metroid style games anymore because I understand how they're structured. You know, I really love them and I play them a lot and I still get a lot of enjoyment out of them. But like in terms of like trying to get that original, like, oh, I really need that thing, and then finally getting it, like Returnal is really delivering that in a lot of ways. I mean, there's not that many upgrades.
Yeah. But
like when you get like the sword, you know, like it just makes you feel so much more ready to take on the rest of that world, you know? And like I've fought the second boss a number of times. Like I've, in the typical sort of, I consider myself an expert now way of a roguelike, you know, you have those first couple attempts where you're like, well, there's no way I'm beating this thing. But then you kind of have those like third and fourth attempts where you're like, okay, I can do this. I just need to try it a few more times. That's where I'm at with that second boss. And like, I cannot wait to get that like grappling hook because it's just going to open up that first area so much in so many ways. And like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised how much I like it. It's really clicking with me in a big way.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
it definitely seems like you'd be the one to like it the least because I feel like you have the least amount of like consecutive free time out of all of us, right? Because it feels like you would be kind of, you know, wrapped up in something else and then lose a run. So I'm pleasantly surprised to hear that you're loving it as much as you are.
You know, there is that thing I've seen a lot of people say, and I think it's like a totally reasonable complaint of wanting that mid-run save. Like that is totally fine. But I think people like misconstrue it as like every time you play, you have to play 3 hours at a time. You know what I mean? Like a good run might last like an hour. But I mean, like if I'm playing for a few hours at night, like I'm going through multiple runs. It's not like if you want to really truly beat the game after you've spent a lot of time with it, you might want to set aside a big chunk of time. But like for the most part, I feel like it's reasonably bite-sized. You know, I hope people aren't getting scared away thinking they have to play it like in 4-hour chunks without saving. It doesn't really work like that.
And you can still pause it and put it in rest mode and stuff. It's just people are worried about bugs or crash.
You don't want it to update overnight if that happens.
Right. All that weird stuff.
But yeah, I mean, just the tone. Also, like, I think, you know, I was interested in it because it looked great, and I like Housemarque okay. I've never been a huge like arcadey. I like story-driven games, and it was that late sort of trailer tease where they showed her like walking up to her house. Yeah, that I was like,
that's what got me into it too.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, this seems really cool, and like I am really enjoying the sort of the conceit and the story of like her, like what's happening exactly and how mysterious it is. It's.
I'm really just trying to walk around in a house. In any game, really, is what I've learned.
I mean, it also functions so it's such a rewarding thing to have that moment where occasionally you do get to go in the house. Like I've only gone in there twice at this point, but it's like it's so intense all the time that the reward is a moment to just sort of walk around in a relaxed way and just try and figure out what's happening. Like it really works well. I'm really loving it.
That's great. Returnal, everybody, PlayStation 5 exclusive. Thanks for checking in, Kyle. Yeah, I haven't even made it to the second biome yet. But I'm like 8 hours in, something like that, and so it's still kicking my ass. But I still like it a lot, and it's a great podcast.
Get that astronaut figure. If you get him, that'll help you get through.
Okay, thanks for the tip. Suriel.
Yes.
We need to hear this new mystery person. Would you mind taking the blow and clapping out of here, buddy?
Alrighty.
She's here, everybody.
Hello.
Sarah Podzorski, welcome to the show.
What a surprise!
And it's not just one of those classic situations where Sarah Podzorski jumps in as a guest. Officially, she is joining us not quite at the cohort tier, but somewhere in that mix. Your official title is Sarah.
Oh no. Oh no, because you've told me this so many times, and it literally goes in one ear and it like leaves out the other.
Yep, that's fair. We went with streaming compatriot.
Okay, streaming compatriot.
Yeah.
Can I try that again? Ask me again.
Sarah, please tell me your official title.
My official title is streaming compatriot.
Put it on the resume.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. And thanks for everybody for supporting us over on Patreon to make things like this possible. It's all because of you. Sarah is joining us as part of a larger initiative here at MinnMax where we are going to be pushing and streaming more on Twitch. So basically, this is MinnMax Plays is what we're calling it. We've had a couple streams here and there, but we're in a way doubling the amount of MinnMax content we're creating if you look at it from a certain perspective, because we're going to be streaming 2 days a week now on Twitch, in addition to New Show Plus, which we also stream every week at noon Central. So Tuesdays, Sarah is going to be streaming, and then Thursdays, one of the cohorts is going to be streaming. We'll alternate exactly who that's going to be, and there's going to be a lot of multiplayer sessions in there as well, but primarily these are going to be solo streams just for an opportunity to hang out with the chat. Yes, Sarah?
Yes. Love hanging out with chat. Love talking with chat. Come hang out, come say hi. We'll play some fun games. I don't promise to be good at the games. I am just someone who plays games.
Ooh, did you know that, Hanson, when you set this all up?
If you were expecting Shroud level content,
but you're not here. You're going to be starting with Resident Evil Village on Tuesday.
Yes.
Will be your first solo stream over there at twitch.tv/MinnMax show. So give us a follow there. We're going to be streaming a lot. So come say hi. Obviously a sub would be amazing, but just give us a follow. Twitch.tv/MinnMax show.
Please support me while I run from the big lady.
Or run towards
I'm a little
her.
scared.
We'll see how it goes. This is going to be fun. And so, this Thursday, we'll have our first big group stream on Twitch where we're going to be streaming. I think the plan right now is to stream Ember, which is a co-op firefighting game. It's going to be Sarah and Leo and I as a way to kind of kick off MinnMax plays here overall. But it'll be a fun time. So thanks to everybody for the support. But Sarah, obviously, you're welcome to join us on the podcast whenever you'd like as well. Okay, great.
Will do.
It's less fun than streaming, I understand. So we should talk about...
Not gonna join.
Yeah. We should talk about new Pokemon Snap. This hot new Switch release. We streamed a lot of it last week, actually, and I've continued to play. Janet, how much have you played at this point?
I still only played those first 4 hours. So I think I jumped in on I rated y'all, which is also us. Don't think about it too much. And I think I was around where y'all were at. When I dropped off my stream, it's okay, that's where I ended. So I still am in that first area, but that first area lasts for a really long time. So I've taken some photos. I also spend a long time selecting my photos and going through all the menus and things. So I'm sure I could have made more progress if I cared less about the pictures themselves. But that's the whole game. So
you got to do it. Yeah. If you don't care about the pictures, what the hell are you doing? Sarah, how much have you played?
I made it to the volcano.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think I just unlocked the area up on top of the mountain.
Right.
So not all the way through it yet. Just sort of. It's surprising for a game that seems on the surface like it should be so peaceful.
Yeah.
How absolutely stressful it is.
You're just scared you're going to miss something?
Yeah, absolutely. You come in and I'm looking behind me and then all of a sudden a Pokemon will fly over my head and I'm like, what was that? And then all of a sudden it's over. It feels like the only way I can describe it is if somebody tied you to a golf cart and sent it shooting through a zoo, gave you a digital camera and said, take as many pictures of animals as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. We are not stopping.
Yes,
it has always been a game that it may not have a countdown in the corner, but you're always playing against a countdown. You know what I mean?
You're stuck really in this time loop of going back this area again and again and again. All the Pokemon will be doing the exact same things that were last time, and just, hey, it's up to you. You either get it or you miss it.
Just like real nature.
And I think
it's like real nature.
I haven't finished it yet either. But I don't think it has the speed up boost that was in the original. So you're kind of locked into that speed going through, but it does so many things better than the original. Just having the animals change as you take pictures, you get experience, which levels up the area, which results in different behaviors and new Pokemon. And then you can actually choose which level of the level you're doing. I think my big takeaway, I have a lot of them, but one of them is just I'm still a little bit confused about how to quote unquote make progress. And the entire push of it's all about the crystal blooms. Mirror needs his crystal bloom pictures no matter what. And that's core to it. But I definitely have hit those moments of okay, so do I get to the next level just by leveling this up, or I need to somehow trigger a crystal bloom in every single level, and that's what makes Mirror happy ultimately. I don't know.
I noticed that especially on level 1, it feels like I'm being shunned. None of the Pokemon turn around to look at me. They purposely turn in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
It's a lot of yelling at animals.
It hurts my feelings to watch Grookey just look at me and then walk away. You're wait, but because in the original Pokemon Snap, they did the same thing every single time.
Right.
But in this one, you're okay, it's level 1. No one's going to look at me. I won't get any good photos. Let's just get this over with.
Yeah, you're not worthy of their time. in level
No,
1.
and then they got to get used to you. You know, you got to like prove your chops as a photographer, and then they'll start like doing weird stuff and like posing and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, that is kind of a Pokemon thing, though, right? Like, you got to be a certain level for them to respect you. You know?
That's true. That is true.
That's a good point. By the way, chat's screaming at me that I'm very wrong. Apparently, you get boost later. It's a post game thing. Okay, good.
You do?
I'm glad that.
I haven't gotten there yet.
But post game, like the game's over. Like you don't get credit for that. Like
Yeah, you're right.
like you know, this could might be a hot take or not, but like for me, like the credits roll, everything after, it could be like, and it could be nice. It could be like a cool thing, but with the closest exception I might give you is Animal Crossing.
Of
but even
course.
then, I'm like, why do we get terraforming so late? That's kind of rude. Like, it's rude. It's
But
rude.
like Animal Crossing, it's like what credits roll when you like open up the
When KK
museum.
comes.
Yeah.
No, when KK comes.
Oh, is that what it is? When
KK
KK comes. Yeah, that's right. But
Yeah.
it's like that's
Who
just the
could forget
start.
that iconic performance?
But
He
like-
sang his soul out in front of all of us. The developers' names were there.
It was
You were
beautiful.
there. Your villagers were there. It's like it didn't mean anything to you.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about the good times we had together. But new
Yeah,
Pokemon
when he was
Snap.
like, oh, I felt that, you know? Like,
I get it. Message received. But like with new Pokemon Snap, like that's just the start of the game when the credits roll. Like especially with the more online stuff, community stuff, like they want you to really care about the total Pokedex
Have
score
you
going
seen
into
like the
this.
top 10 people on the leaderboard with their like 3? I checked one day, 2 million was the highest. I checked like 2 days later, 3 million. What are these people doing?
It's going to be
What are
a
they
really
doing?
fun like metagame to watch is like that high score race in new Pokemon Snap. Cause like, yeah, what is the high end min-maxing of new Pokemon
does
Snap
it
gonna look
stop?
like? It won't.
Where
it's
is the
fascinating.
ceiling? There has to be like a ceiling of this is the best possible picture you can get of this Pokemon.
Well, this is the problem is, Kyle, please don't take offense to this just because you look exactly like him, but Professor Mirror is out of his frickin' mind. And I know
Yeah.
it's tough to judge.
Look, I have high standards, all
I
right?
understand. But like, it's tough to judge art, but there's a lot of those things where it's like, okay, so he's only into a shot if it's a boring ass Pokemon, full frame in the center, making just
Indeed.
dead eye contact with him. Like
Yes,
that's what
yes.
he needs. And it's like, that's not art.
Or if the Pokemon's clearly been like recently abused by an apple.
yeah, he's into it.
like, oh my god, amazing shot. How did you get this? And the not the apple, but the fluff fruit is sitting right there. It's like, how did you get this shot? I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm a really good photographer.
It's just stuck
or
to
worse, there's like
Cactuar's
8
head.
apples there because you missed the first or fluff fruit, you know? But yeah.
I feel like that's what they need in the. So what's interesting is you can go in and edit photos. Not that Professor Mirror judges, but you can like go back and like retake and like tweak someone's if you want to actually save it to the album later and upload those. And like I wish there was just like an automatic fluff fruit undo because so many of my best shots it just looks like an apple
Remove.
orchard down there. It's just freaking nuts. But like
Someone in chat said he's a researcher first, not a photographer.
I get that. Wouldn't it
And
be
he needs to remember that when he criticizes my photos. Okay, he needs to remember where we stand.
It's like, I've learned nothing with this piece of trash that you've taken.
Yeah.
I wish
It's
You guys are
artsy, but
talking
it's
about
not
me
productive.
like I'm not here. I don't get it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Professor Mirror.
Well,
Yeah,
stop us when we stop telling the truth is the thing.
I feel like you need to have like two professors. One to have like old vanilla Mirror being like,
Professor of art, like a hippie art teacher or something.
yeah, and it's just like random AI art critiques where like he's just really passionate about like weird shots. You could take a picture of like the sky and like turn it red, and he's like, "This
Like some
is a
avant-garde stuff.
yeah." He's
you
like,
know?
"This is 4,000 points," but you just never know what to expect from like this alternate weirdo because otherwise it's just kind of like, well, I know the shots he's gonna like. It's Pikachu's face, basically full frame, ready to go.
Yeah.
Kyle, what has stood out to you about the game so far?
I mean, it's very. I'm not very far. It feels, a lot like the original. It's kind of one of those things like you play that first level and you're like, oh yeah, I guess this is kind of a simple formula. That it's weird that it's taken so long to come back. But I mean, the charm of the original, which you have a lot more nostalgia for than me, Hanson. I only played it like at friend's house, when I released. And it was that thing of seeing Pokemon in a different setting in 3D. Like that was for the first time, right? That was pre-Pokemon Stadium, right?
Yep.
And that charm is kind of gone. So now it has to sort of live or die by how fun it is to take photos. And it is fun to take photos.
I don't know. I don't know if it has gone. Like, first of all, you have the aspect of so many of these new Pokemon I maybe have seen once or twice, but like I'm actually getting to know a lot of these new freaks' names, which is nice. But then there's still moments like in the new beach level, like when Whale Lord comes out of the water, it's like that is an incredible Pokemon moment that I haven't experienced in any other game yet.
I learned that I don't like some Pokemon in 3D, and other Pokemon I like more in 3D. So I used to be a really big fan of like Corsola, but the way the Corsolas move around, they kind of rock back and forth on these tiny little peg legs, and it makes the most unnerving sound to me that I really prefer them in 2D, and the 3D is just a little too far maybe.
Yeah, some of like the new designs, you can kind of see the weakness in the art when you see them in 3D. Like, I forget the freaks' names, but like on the volcano level, like the kind
so
of
mean.
like, but kind of like the furry dinosaur.
Are you talking about
flying
the West
ones.
Side Story birds?
I think
Where they
so.
T-pose? All they do is T-pose, kind of, and they kind of like walk by
This is the
people
weirdest
with
game
their
of
arms
Who's That
out.
Pokemon ever.
It's like art.
And they look at each other like West Side Story. They're about to start snapping.
Yes.
Are they
I think
jet
that's
all
it.
the way?
Yeah, Archeops is this thing. Like this one was like,
Yeah.
seeing that art in 3D. Okay, not the strongest design overall, but I have really been loving it. Like, I think it's a really smart idea, even if it took a while for me to understand because I'm an idiot. But like the star system, I think it's
I
really
don't want to
interesting.
talk about the star system.
Well, here's my problem with the star system. So basically, all these photos are different categories that are hidden unless you go into the Pokedex to see it, but it's 4 different categories. But it's confusing because you think, well, star system, so 4 stars is better. And it's like, it might be more elaborate, but it's just a different mold. And the idea there is to get away from, in the original, it'd be like, well, if you have a picture of surfing Pikachu, it's going to be your top Pikachu shot. But to have like, okay, surfing Pikachu is a separate subcategory of Pikachu, so you can still have basic ass Pikachu, and that can still be a premier shot. But what's your problem with the star system, Sarah?
It was kind of hard to understand in the beginning because it is
Yeah.
basically rarity of behavior. And if you use like a fluff fruit, it could be an awful shot, but it's automatically 2-star versus like being a 1-star. So it's just like that kind of stuff. But also, since we're talking about the different categories, one thing that confuses me is some of the Pokemon have different evolutions. So like Lycanroc has morning and nighttime forms, and those are different evolutions, similar to like Vaporeon, Umbreon, but they fill up the same pages. So all my Lycanroc is like the midnight form of Lycanroc because that's when it comes out, and I have no morning photos of Lycanroc because they just get overwritten. So that was just a little weird to me.
Yeah, that is weird. And like on that front too, it's weird that as far as I know, there aren't evolutions in the game. Like that was like the coolest thing is like pushing a Magikarp into the waterfall or like pushing the Charmeleon into the volcano and have like this big evolution moment. And I don't think it's in there, at least from what I've
Now it
seen
just
so
hurts
far.
them. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
There's no option to do that. But like, I think my biggest beef with the star system is, and I think it's telling that we have so many different complaints of it.
Yeah.
Like that's probably not a good sign. But it's the fact that like it kind of pushes you to like get your 1 through 4 stars, and there's different gradings as well, which is like an additional layer of systems to learn. Yay. But they don't let you, like, if I have 3 pictures of like Bidoof or whatever, which is a great. I love that Pokemon now more because of this game because it's
telling
everywhere. It looks adorable.
This game, pro Bidoof propaganda.
Yeah.
Yes,
The
it's like the
Pokemon
mascot.
company.
They always had secret
company
mascots.
is trying to get all of us to really like Bidoof because
And it's working.
For April Fools, they changed their entire account to a Bidoof only account. And I'm sorry, but like,
Yeah.
what is the end game here? Because I like Bidoof now. He's very cute, but I don't like that you're making me like him.
Yeah.
Pokemon company.
You're seeing inside the
Maybe they just
picture.
want to see.
Pokemon to like.
Maybe they want to see what they can get away with. Like, let's pick someone doofy and innocuous and see if we can sell. Like, how many new Pikachu type level loves can we create? Because they did it with Wooloo too. Now Wooloo's way less derpy than Bidoof. Wooloo's like inherently lovable. Like they made Wooloo so you would love Wooloo.
Yeah.
And I had no problems with it. You know, I want to hold Wooloo. I want to live with Wooloo. I don't want to evolve Wooloo. Like Wooloo, it's just me and Wooloo all day, every day, Sword and Shield forever. But yeah, Bidoof is like the mascot of this one, which at least feels like it. You know, they kind of lean on it really heavily in the beginning. But like if I get, 4 shots of Bidoof because I love him now, I got to keep taking pictures of it. I can only submit 1 per run, like to fill in the binder. And it just
Right.
feels like my big beef with this game. And I played it when I was a kid. And now I'm starting to think that, which a lot of us have learned this over the years. It's painful to learn. I'm like, I don't think I had good taste in games when I was like 6 or 7.
Whoa.
Like 7-year-old me would have been trash on a podcast because Now, granted, some of you argue that 27-year-old me is same difference, but, I'm older now at least and have more ideas behind my opinions. But I really loved the game because it was, it's cute. You're with the Pokemon. And I think it is still a very cute game and you're still with the Pokemon. But, I put it down after, to play Resident Evil. But admittedly, even if I didn't have other games to play, I don't think I would have been super excited to continue it. The loop just wasn't that fun. I do like taking the photos and I think some of the things you can do with the photo editing aspect is cool. But then it's kind of like, well, what do I do with these? And back in the day, you could print them out. But now, basically my only incentive and for me to keep playing is to get things that I can meme on Twitter, which is a decent incentive. I like
so
content.
Gross.
But outside of that, what else is the purpose?
To have fun playing the game. What are you talking
But I'm
about?
not
You take the
having
cute
fun
I say that
pictures.
about a lot of games, though.
Yeah, but I guess that's my thing.
Go for
I
a
don't
high
have fun in the
score.
loop. I don't have fun in the loop.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't have fun with the thing that I find the most fun, which is editing the photos. So it's doesn't really have a purpose. It's it's just a fun fact. It's not you can make them into even wallpapers easily or something like that. So it's I guess I'm doing this because I like Pokemon and they're cute, which maybe that can be enough for you. But I just kind of want to put it out there as someone that is always here for a cute game. It was not enough for me. Now it's not to, I never really like to be too heavy headed with encouraging or discouraging folks, but that is my take. I was shocked as someone who was I was at the GameStop. I bought this Pokemon mug impulsively, got the Pokemon. I love Pokemon. I like cute stuff. I liked Snap as a kid. This one didn't really do it for me. I just feel like the progression loop it's too repetitive of a progression loop and it can be unclear at times. So I think the combination of lack of clarity and repetitiveness just makes it really hard to get into this game for me.
However, I feel like it completed the assignment. They said, we're going to make a Pokemon Snap game.
It did.
Assignment completed. Did
Absolutely.
it go maybe above and beyond? No, but the assignment was completed.
You're right. It really is and that's the thing. It is true to what the game is. This is what this game has always been. And I guess for me, it was a combination of, I hoped it would be a little bit more modernized or have more innovative ideas infused on the baseline.
Yeah.
And two, nostalgia goggles where I'm oh, it was great. We were throwing apples and Pikachu was surfing and, I didn't have to pay rent. So this was the era, but now I'm I just, it didn't hit the same for me. And I was kind of disappointed by it, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that. It's better than I thought it was going to be. But at the same time, it's if we're making a game to release in 2021, do we need to be on the track? I mean, if you remove the nostalgia and the connection to the old game, there's plenty of areas where it's all right, it's a game about taking pictures of Pokemon. That can go so many different angles, and to be so literal to the old one, I could see it brings it down in some people's minds for just replaying these levels again and again, even if they are changing and evolving and you're working your way through it and stuff. I actually, maybe this is idiotic, but I was expecting more connections to the old game, or I was kind of hoping for it, where it's playing through it, I'm it's been 22 years. You couldn't use some of the old music, have an orchestrated take on some of the old music, or even the polka flute music instead of that crappy music player that I just have to spam over and over again.
What do you mean? That is an absolute bop. All
No,
the
it is
Pokemon
not.
jam out to it.
You're out of your mind. Pokemon are fleeing from the track when they hear that crap coming. But I was just kind of bummed out. I wanted more of that nostalgia. But that kind of ties into what's really weird about this game from a Pokemon company aspect. Is they have Todd in the game, our boy Todd, who is protagonist from the first game, which is cool to have him come back. But Kyle, I don't know if you picked up on this weird distinction, that idea that in the original Pokemon Snap, it was so much more based on the anime. And now this new one is a more modern take on Pokemon. So Todd now exists in both universes, where he has seen the universe where every Pokemon says their name, like the original Pokemon Snap. But then also in this universe, this is now the more canonical Pokemon universe where every Pokemon is just going to say their cry. And it's not really the Professor Oak from the cartoon like it was in the other one. It's this weird blurry fusion of multiple Pokemon universes at once.
So it's a multiverse of madness situation.
I think Todd has been plucked from the different universe. Yeah, for the true multiverse of madness. But
Burrito Todd.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still enjoying it. It's a great podcast game. Sarah, are you going to keep playing it, or are you just in it for the memes and you're out the door?
I mean, I'm going to get through it. I'm streaming it right now, so I'm going to stream through it. I don't know how aggressive I'll get about maxing out all my Pokemon photos. It just doesn't seem worth it to me in some situations. Not everything needs to be diamond. Good enough is good enough, So I'll probably finish it. I'm enjoying it. I still think Professor Mirror can take his crystal blooms and shove it.
Yeah,
because I'm sick of those. And Phil can take a hike as well, but everything else can stay.
Who is Phil? Why is he there? He's just an inept photographer.
Every time he appears, I'm just like, why are you here? Apparently he's supposed to be like a hype man, but it's like if a 12-year-old followed you around and went like, "Shee!" every time you did something.
It'd be cool for the first year, but after that, I agree. It'd be too much.
Some of the narrative tutorialization elements are kind of like, you know how everyone says like Nintendo games need voice acting and like, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great? I think for this one, maybe it's okay. And you can adjust it. You can turn it off and change the language, but I put it on and in English. I mean, they're young people, so I understand they're children, but like being like whined at by like a 12-year-old girl who's like, and then you take this picture, make sure the picture. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to hurt you. I'm really going to come out of this. Like it. Yeah. But I mean, Pokemon's always been like inherently, all ages friendly. Like the writing has always been a little cheesy, very friendship.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like this was like, I wasn't expecting a gritty story, but I think some of the other layers
like a
were
war
like,
reporter
okay.
or something.
Yeah. But I'm in there, like I'm in the field, I'm doing the research.
Are you going to photograph this Pokemon or save its life?
It depends on what the photo reveals.
That's the thing. There's so
have
much
an illness that we don't know about.
In the Pokemon world, there is so much bullying. I've watched, like, in every scene, some Pokemon's getting harassed. You take a photo of it, you go to Professor Mirror, and he's like, what a friendly game of tag. I'm like, Professor Mirror, this Pokemon is being actively bullied.
Dropped into a volcano slowly.
Yeah. It made me hate Score Bunnies. Score Bunnies always run around, never wants to get the photo taken. I started, like, getting good photos of Score Bunny out of spite. I'm like, that's right. That's right. You thought.
Do you think... Like, Jen, you said, we're not going to Blockbuster to print these out or whatever. Do you think if you were the #1 new Pokemon Snap player in the world, like on that leaderboard, do you think you could get away with selling some frickin' NFTs of your shots? Do you think that...
Not with Nintendo being involved. I mean, it's Pokemon, not Nintendo, but no for that reason.
They would crack down on it?
Oh, yeah, you would so get, like, don't even think it. Don't even think it, because they will hear your thought and they will DMC you.
We're on a list somewhere now, so thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, I do what I can.
I would never. It's wrong to make any type of money off of anything, even though we stream games and people sometimes pay us for that. But that's different. That's different. Okay, we've said too much already. I think it's a good time to move on.
Yep, new Pokemon Snap, everybody. Run, don't walk. Kyle, thank you for being here. Do you want to clap out there, buddy?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Bye-bye.
Leo Vader's here, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Leo. Leo, if you look below you, that's Sarah Podzorski.
Hello.
Hello.
Great to meet you here on air.
She's going to be streaming on MinnMax's account and is an official streaming compatriot, Leo.
Wow, you didn't even consult me about this.
Sorry. And
First I'm hearing about it.
She's getting your paycheck as well, but I hope you're okay with it.
Fair enough.
Hey, Leo, you wanted to talk about... Nay, you wouldn't let us not talk about a game called Cards and Tankards.
Yeah, you know me. I've been without a game to love lately, and I feel like I finally found one in this weird thing called Cards and Tankards.
Yeah, you really have been like all year just moaning about like, oh, Winter Game's going to get good again.
I thought you were the Dwarf Romantic.
Dwarf Romantic's pretty good, but, wasn't quite a long-term relationship.
Yeah, but what is Cards and Tankards then?
It's basically the experience of being at a hobby shop playing Magic the Gathering in VR. It's like you go in this tavern, you walk up to a table, you pull out your deck, put it on the table, somebody else comes up, puts their deck down, and you just play cards. And when you put a card down, it'll put a creature on the field in front of you, and you scoot it forward to attack with your hands, and it's like so much less toxic than Hearthstone like that, because you're actually pretty much face to face with this person. So the conversations you're going to have are like way more different than just like spamming taunts.
Is it a real person? Like it's not like an AI, it's a real person.
You can play against AI, but it's usually real people. Like it's a tavern of, 5 to 16 people.
That's crazy.
It is a really unique experience.
But I feel like we had very different, like, walking into a card shop experiences to play Magic the Gathering.
That's probably true.
Like those experiences were a little different.
The other thing is I've actually never done that in real life. So this is really my chance.
It feels too intimate. The idea of like just sitting across a table from somebody in VR.
Can you reach the other person? How far can you stick your arm out?
If you lean over the table, yeah, you probably could.
Could you like BM them and like put your hand in front of their what's my capability to mess with the other person?
If you want to be toxic, you can just walk around the table and look at their cards if you want.
Really?
Yeah, there's nothing to stop
this
you.
is selling it.
Weird. And so what is it? Is it just like missing having a social space? Or what do you think is the magic here for you?
I think it's something I've wanted out of VR for a long time, is that VR chat-like experience where it's all about the social aspects that make VR like so magical to me, that made me fall in love with it in the past year. But so many VR games are just like co-op horde shooters or whatever, which are fun, but it's like doesn't quite take what VR is doing amazingly. And this is that blend of an actual game, which is this card game that like right now doesn't have any pay to win mechanics. Like you just buy packs with in-game currency. And the game itself is a blast to play, plus the social aspect of like building these relationships with the people in your tavern and like getting an impromptu tournament going and things like that.
That's so weird. And the game
That
is
sounds
basically
so wholesome.
Yeah, it's too sweet.
Sweet.
And it's just like Magic then? Like the game itself, it's pretty much
Essentially, Magic and Hearthstone combined. Like having played a lot of Hearthstone, I learned it in the first game I played, it was a breeze.
yeah. Cards and Tankards on Steam in VR only, yes?
Yes, and not on Quest yet, unfortunately.
Oh, what a bummer.
But they have their first tournament or second tournament coming up on May 22nd. They've got like an actual in-game tournament going. So get
That's so
training. It's
cute.
free.
That sounds cute.
I'm worried people are going to find out about it and ruin it, but let's enjoy it while it's good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, Janet, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Yeah, I think it's a site called Patreon.
Yeah, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Thanks for your support and continuing to let us grow. We appreciate it. Leo, what is that sound?
What? For me?
That's right, Leo. It's Rainmaker.gg. This week, MinnMax is once again supported by our friends at Rainmaker.gg. Rainmaker is the all-in-one platform for streamers, developers, and publishers. If you're a streamer, Rainmaker gives you insight on your channel's performance and a full suite of streaming tools, including overlays, tipping services, chatbots, alerts, and more. Plus, get access to the game keys from the world's best AAA and indie publishers. For devs and publishers, Rainmaker provides powerful tools that help you analyze game performance and discover creators on the world's biggest streaming platforms. And when it's time to get your game out there, Rainmaker's campaigns feature makes it simple to put keys into the hands of thousands of content creators across the globe. So head to rainmaker.gg/MinnMax or hit the link in the episode's description to get started. By the
Rainmaker.gg, if you want a clean one to insert.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. I realize this whole segment is just me asking questions of people, but I guess that's how plugs are supposed to work, right? Hey, Sarah, do you like using your Switch Pro controller?
Am I being paid to answer one way or the other?
You answer honestly, and if you answer incorrectly, I can jump to somebody else.
It's too big for my hands.
Okay, Janet, what's
Okay.
better than the Switch Pro controller?
Arguably nothing, because it's a damn good controller.
There we go. Thank
But
you.
there could be something. Maybe you'll show me something that is.
Well, it's a weird thing because it's like, oh, I love the Switch Pro controller, but I want to play my Switch on the go. What is the solution for that? Thanks to our new supporters, Fixture Gaming with the Fixture S1. Look at this funky thing. So it is a mount that you like snap the Switch Pro controller into, and then it's adjustable, and you can have the actual monitor here as well. So you can play handheld with the Switch Pro controller in a very convenient setup. Isn't that cool? I've played it and it is a fantastic way to go. So Fixture Gaming is the name of that. Fixture S1 is available on Amazon on the Fixture Gaming website. It's available in gray and red or blue. And if you go to their site and use the promo code MinnMax, all one word, you get $5 off the Fixture S1. So you can check that out. Also, there is a link below in the description if you want to learn a little bit more. And because they're very generous, they're going to give some away to the MinnMax community. So if you share your favorite piece of MinnMax content on either Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, you can use the promo code MinnMaxFixture. I'm sorry, not promo code, hashtag MinnMaxFixture. And if you use that hashtag, you are in the running to win a Fixture S1. So share your favorite piece of content and hashtag MinnMax Fixture, everybody.
Do you like video games?
Yes.
Returnal, just kind of keep it, think about it. Well, there's at least one that's close to your heart from an impactful specific moment in your life, and the Call Me By Your Game is a podcast that dives into these very experiences. It's an intimate look at what makes video games special for different people. On each episode, host Connor McCabe sits down with a guest to discuss a special game from their past. They dive into what the guest loves about the game, and also what made it memorable for the first time in their life when they first fell in love with it. The guests are the heartbeat of the show, from Hollywood buds such as writer of the Animaniacs,
Reka Shankar.
Reka Shankar, thank you. An actor from Veep and Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Nelson Franklin, to games industry people like IGN's Nick Limone, and voice actor of Aphrodite and Dusa from Hades, Courtney Vinay's. Connor interviews a litany of wonderful friends with unique experiences. Check them out wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe someday you'll call me by your game.
Call me by your game. The last 2 episodes were about Final Fantasy VI and Ocarina of Time, so thanks to them for their support. Also thanks to iam8bit, as always, for their wonderful support. They want everybody to know that you can go to their wonderful online store and check out the Final Cut Collector's Edition of Disco Elysium for the PlayStation 5. It comes with a fabric map and an art book and a statue, and the art book is absurd. It's 190 plus pages, hardbound art book featuring oodles of previously unreleased art and stories, and the map is an illustrated fabric map of the actual district itself. So you can get the physical edition of this amazing Final Cut Collector's Edition of Disco Elysium over on iam8bit's wonderful online store, and use the promo code TAXDAY. Tax Day No Space for 10% off everything in their wonderful online store that is under $100. So Tax Day is the promo code over at iam8bit store. You can check out this item and so much more. And because they're so generous, every single week they ship out a prize from their wonderful online store. And this week it is, Leo, what's better than this? This week it is the vinyl soundtrack to Ape Out. A very sweet soundtrack with a very sweet art. So they will ship that out to whoever has the best question submitted over on Patreon. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can submit a question for us to read on the show. We choose our number one tippy top favorite, and then that person wins a great prize from iam8bit. So thanks to iam8bit for the support. Question time, Leo?
Question time, Ben.
Great. Noah D writes in, he says, "Hello, everybody. I played through the Village demo, the Resident Evil Village demo, and I loved what I experienced. Which is odd because I normally can't handle horror games. I'm looking at you, Resident Evil 7 and Condemned. My question is, has there ever been a game that's been too scary for you to play or finish?"
Just recently, we got a code for Wraith the Oblivion Afterlife, which is a VR horror game, which seems very cool and is the first VR game I've seen straight rip off the flicking your wrist thing from Half-Life Alyx. But I got to a point where I was like, I need someone in the room with me when I'm playing this, which I know it's like on Quest, nobody can be monitoring it. So I can't just have somebody watching me. It's just like, I need somebody doing their own thing in close proximity to make me feel comfortable going to this door. It was literally just a door with a scary noise on the other side. And I was like, I can't do it.
I like how that was the final straw and not like horror games in VR, which just sounds like it would kill me. I don't think my heart could handle that. I think that would be the end.
When I was first trying VR, it didn't have to be a horror game. It was just like anything getting up in my face ruined me.
Yeah, the VR horror stuff. I mean, it's interesting you even tried Wraith. I mean, didn't you know that you were just going to be terrified? Like, it's just too much.
It had been a while. I thought maybe I'd grown up, but guess not.
We're all still babies.
You gotta keep checking every now and then periodically. I think, most games I probably... Like most of horror, basically. The reason I haven't really played much of any horror titles is because, like, I am scared all of the time. Like even Half-Life Alyx, like playing a little bit of that, which I would like to go back and finish it because like everyone says it's so amazing, but like just any type of, it's not even a horror game, but like there's too many noises, you want me doing stuff. And like, at least my trick for horror when I'm like playing a game is like, if it ever gets too scary, I can kind of like look a little bit off. You can kind of sense when stuff's coming. So I sort of look a little off screen and I'm like, all right, you can talk through it. You can throw on like some music in the background. There are mechanisms, but with VR, it's so much more immersive because it's on your head. The only thing you really can do is not wear headphones and just have the speakers loud and close your eyes, but that doesn't really help very much. So yeah, I've avoided a lot of VR horror stuff too. Though I did review one like horror adjacent VR game, and that was a lot. It was also a roguelike, so 2 genres I don't play. I'm like, all right, 2 genres I don't play, 1 review, let's go.
Yeah. Sarah, I'm trying to figure out. I mean, horror games are just, if you're a streamer, that's just the way to go.
Yeah.
You got to do it because it's fun to watch people be tortured on camera.
Yeah. People love it. I streamed Amnesia, the newest Amnesia game on stream, and I got to a point where I like lost feeling in my arm. I was so terrified because like Amnesia, they really know how to scare you. They really know how to mess with you. And at one point I was like, why can't I feel my arms? But I hit sort of a gauntlet of jump scares. And this was right when the game came out. And like a week later, they actually toned it down because people literally couldn't even get through it. You are being chased through a tunnel by a bunch of monsters. And it's just every corner you round, something would jump out. And you also had to like hand crank, which is the worst. Like I don't want being chased and having to hand crank something with the mouse. I can't do it. So I had to call it quits there. I was like, nope, I can't. I know it, and I can't get through this.
Yeah, totally fair. I mean, I think most horror games will just freak me out too much. I mean, Phasmophobia, Leo, I know you loved it so much. But like we streamed that once and it was just absolute terror. Like as scared as I've ever been in my life because like ghosts are my kryptonite. I cannot handle that. In a game all about like subtle and building ghost presence, it's just no way.
Yeah, that game gets less scary the more you play it, but the first time each scary thing happens is, unforgettable.
Yeah. When the door shuts and you're like, hello? And then eventually when I played it with my friends, they were just like, Sarah, where are you? And I'm like, in the truck. And they're like, how long have you been in the truck? And I'm like, I'm monitoring the situation from outside the house.
Yeah. Jason Wojnar writes in, he says, with the issue surrounding Returnal's save system, I wanted to ask, what is the most progress you've ever lost in a single game session, and why did you lose it? For me, I went from the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater to the first boss fight with Ocelot. In the middle of the fight, the power in the kitchen went out while my late father was cooking. Instead of finding the shorted fuse and flicking the switch, he does all of them at once, turning off the PS2 in the living room. I could tell he was under the influence of a mind-altering substance because that was such a stupid thing to do, he couldn't get mad when I yelled at him. I'd beaten Metal Gear Solid 3 many times before, and it wasn't too big of a deal, but still was bad enough to vividly remember it to this day. Good God. Does anybody have a big memory of losing a lot of progress?
When I was, I want to say like 12 or 13, I was playing Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life for the Nintendo GameCube. And there were 3 save slots that you could have. Save slot 1, save slot 2, save slot 3. And I got through my first year. I had just married Celia. We just had our first baby together. Like the farm was thriving.
It's beautiful.
And my sister decided that she wanted to play. And so she goes to play a little bit, and then all of a sudden she does something and she turns and she looks at me, and I saw that she had accidentally saved over save slot 1 because it automatically puts you there.
Yeah.
And that was like hours and hours and hours of gameplay. So I had a little bit of a meltdown. I remember just like going into the basement and like I was being a little dramatic. I'm crying in a corner, and my parents came down and they were like, Sarah, like, Hannah says she's really sorry that she did that. She said that she'll play the game for you up until that point, and you can just tell her what to do. And that's when I discovered that my career aspirations are middle management. Because I sat on that couch and I was like, pick that weed, give that flower to Celia. We're going to the market. Did you pet my cow?
Delegating.
So, yeah.
Smart. That's brutal. Ugh. Does anybody else have a good one?
There's that day one Last of Us bug where you couldn't save the game. So I was like, do I either beat it without turning off my system or just restart it and get this update going? And I'm glad I did, because I ended up bumping it up a difficulty and enjoying it more.
Yeah.
For it.
Well, there we go. That's
Nice.
smart. Cade Mead writes in with a question for you, Sarah. Some games don't get official translations, but can still be played with fan translations. As a professional in the field, Sarah, can you comment on the quality, similarity, or disparity between fan efforts and studio efforts? there are some notoriously bad and famously good translations on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, so when I was in localization, the general feeling was that people in localization don't like fan translations because they can cause a lot of issues down the line. And I don't think fan translations are nearly as common as they used to be back in the day when there was just absolutely no localization, or localization would take a year. But now that games have like similar release dates, you kind of don't need it anymore. But the issue stems from a fan translation maybe will, give a character a different name. And then they want to release maybe like a remake of it down the road. And the company doesn't want it to have that name. They choose a new name. And so that kind of causes a lot of issues, because usually when you're localizing for a company, you have to do it kind of between guardrails of what the company wants.
Yeah.
And when you're a fan translation, it doesn't matter. You can do like whatever you want. And then people will always say like, I like the fan translation. I think it's better. And it's like, well, you didn't have to go through 7 levels of approval process to pick a name. So it's like you get more creative freedom as a fan translator, but in the end, you could also do more harm than good. But like I asked once, I was like, how do I get into localization? Should I like help with fan translations? And they were like, oh my God, no, do not do that. Don't even think about it. Get it out of your mind. Yeah, no, they hate it. They do not like it.
Just because it's messy and kind of the dark side of Loc.
Yeah, and they're also like, eventually maybe they'll want to localize that game. And now why would people pay money for like an English version when someone already fan translated it? So it also kind of steals revenue from, it doesn't exist yet, but you know how companies are. They're like, oh, my money, my potential money.
Oh, company on the line. Hello. What is, if this is somebody's first time listening to the podcast or hearing your voice, you want to run through your history with game localization?
Sure. So I decided at a young age that I was really interested in localization because I really like Japanese games. And it just really interested me how because it's not like a one-to-one. Japanese to English will never have a one-to-one. It can be a little tricky. So I always was really fascinated by how, the cultural differences were sort of applied. And I got really into that in college. And then when I went to school in Japan for a year, I spent a year abroad. I did an internship with localization company 84, which is kind of like boutique localization. There's a bunch of bigger localization companies, but this was like boutique, like handmade, like I want to say it's like top shelf localization in a way versus going to one of like keywords or like something else, like Pull to Win's a big one. But yeah, I worked there for a year and then I graduated college and I went back and I worked there for like another year and a half. So very interested in it.
It was like Xenoblade Chronicles X and a little bit of Monster Hunter World. Is that right?
Yep. Nier, Automata, Fire Emblem, Echoes. So like a few.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite project that you worked on there?
My favorite project was Undertale. Because that's the one that we really got. And that was like a English to Japanese localization.
Yeah.
And Undertale just had so many funny moments. Like Undertale is known for being like the writing in it being so interesting. So taking that and turning it into Japanese and trying to like, find the right translator, find the right editor and kind of key it into the Japanese culture. I think that was like, it was like a reverse thought experiment.
Yeah, for sure. Andrew Baker writes in, he says, hello, MinnMaxers. With the news of Alex Navarro, Leo, I hope you're sitting down. With the news of Alex Navarro, Vinny Caravella, and Brad Shoemaker leaving Giant Bomb, what do you think of the news, and what are some of your favorite memories of them? They're legends in the industry in my view, and they'll be missed. I will definitely miss Alex Navarro's epic drumming sessions for Rock Band. You could tune in to the latest episode of New Show Plus, where we're watching an old E3 press conference on our YouTube channel to watch us react to this news live as it happens. But Leah, now that you've been processing it, what do you think about everything that went down there?
God, obviously a lot of great memories, a lot of liked clips on YouTube. But I can't believe I got to the point of interviewing at Giant Bomb that one time before I was at Game Informer. That I was on a video call with Vinny, Alex, and Dan at the time. And I think back on that as just like truly one of the most surreal experiences of my life, having followed them for so long before that. And would have been cool. It would have been an equally cool path for my life to go on.
you really should have recorded that and then released it as cool YouTube comments so it could be everybody else's favorite memory as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is so mind-boggling to just think that, well, I guess Beastcast is just gone. Like one of my favorite gaming podcasts is just overnight. It all just feels so sudden, especially compared to, I don't think I'm misremembering this, but like with Abby just recently when she left, it was like a month or 2 months of a heads up. Instead of have this just quick turnaround of like, and Friday's our last day, goodbye. It's a lot for fans to wrap their minds and hearts around. And like, you know, it's people talking in the MinnMax Discord, but there's still like waves that hit you of like, oh, I was really looking forward to hearing Brad's take on the Mass Effect remaster. And I was like, all right, that won't be on the podcast at least, with bizarre bummer. Or just the Game of the Year stuff this year. Who knows what it's going to be like. But Gersman is still there. He had a statement saying that, you know, it basically comes down to it's a good time to kind of rethink what a video game website is in 2021. So it's kind of an interesting opportunity to kind of reset things, redefine what Giant Bomb is. They talk about, they've already been talking to working with creators, so who knows what form that'll eventually take. But I'm excited to see somebody as smart as Jeff Gersman tackle the problem of how do you reboot a gaming website in 2021 for the future. I think that's just academically really fascinating.
It was interesting on that new episode of the Bombcast to hear them talk about their struggle with their insistence on being a website.
Yeah.
In a world where there's 4 websites that anyone uses. And yeah, that is something so unique about them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many things that just in their discussion on the last Bombcast, I think really drive to it about like they are kind of big pioneers of the Patreon model before Patreon existed. And now with the rise of all these Patreon outlets, these lousy, dirty Patreon outlets, like what is the place for Giant Bomb? It's just, they were a weird legacy, even though they were the new age cutting edge thing. And now it's going to be in a radically different form because Alex, Vinny, and Brad will not be there. Like that.
Yeah, it was like a Patreon thing with way more overhead than any Patreon thing has now is kind of the tough part. Right.
Yeah. To like be in a media company that's owned by a larger company and still pushing personality. It just doesn't really exist because I think at a certain point, everybody realizes like it's a lot more efficient if you just go out and do this on your own. The tech is not that expensive, you know? And so they were in a weird spot and now they're in an even stranger spot. But yeah, it's really sad. And it's a nice reminder. Well, first of all, congratulations to those 3. I'm curious to see where they all go next. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. But it's just, a nice reminder that there's a lot of theories and a lot of speculation about what happened, why they're leaving. And it's like, we all know their personalities really well from years and years of listening to their podcasts and watching their videos, but knowing somebody's personality is a far cry from knowing the circumstances and knowing the situation they were in. It's like, just imagine your own office and the amount of office politics in there. And it's like, and then having somebody from the outside assume they know what's happening in there. It's like, just everybody has to take a step back. We have no idea what happened internally. And it's nice just to give them some time to process everything before maybe we'll get some more light on exactly what happened and why they made this choice. But it's definitely sudden. It's going to be a new era for Giant Bomb, but fascinating on a bunch of different fronts. And you know what, Leo? Change happens. Sometimes some good can come out of it.
Sometimes 13 years is enough.
Sometimes.
Yeah, right? Okay, like I don't have a lot to say on the subject because I admittedly wasn't following Giant Bomb like that. Like I knew them as like definitely like a titan in the industry, but not something that I really consumed. So I don't have a lot to say on that front. But yeah, I think with stuff like this, like I'm always just pro people going to do what will hopefully make them happy.
Yeah.
I feel like for the most part, whenever any human makes any decision for something, it's usually for the better. I guess there are like circumstances where you take steps back that feel like this is a choice I'm making that I don't like, but I think those instances are pretty rare. So, my hope is that like they're doing this because they think it'll be a good thing for them, like whatever it is they're doing next. And yeah, I think people forget, listening to shows and consuming content that like at the end of the day, like these things are just jobs. And like, everyone in the industry takes their job super seriously and has a lot of love and passion for it. But like, yeah, like you can jump around, do a lot of different things, go where you want, change things up. That's such a long run to have in this industry. And I think one reason, there's probably a lot of reasons there's different turnover and shifts in the industry, some negative, some positive. But like, ultimately, I kind of, to look at the optimistic side, I feel like people always kind of want better in some form and feel like they can get something better somewhere else. It might not be like, you might be losing some of the good from one place, but gaining some new good that might not be even noticeable to people. Like maybe it's just even like different schedules, or there's different things. Like we all have lives outside of our work. And I think it's, it's totally fine to be sad about things ending, especially when it's content that you've loved. But I think it's important to, as much as you can, match the energy of the people who are making the announcement. If they seem neutral or happy about it, like try to meet them with that, because like no one is indebted to make stuff for you. And I think it's a good reminder to, hey, if you really do like something, like do your best to try to support it in some way, downloading, letting it play in the background, even if you're not listening. Like I think it's a good reminder of like, I saw a lot of people saying, oh man, I was looking to catch up and now I can. And it's like, yeah, like go consume some cool work from some cool people, because you never know how long stuff will last. And, it might not end for bad reasons, but everything ends. That is literally the only thing we have guaranteed, that things end. So enjoy them while they're there, and, give them their flowers before. Don't wait for someone to leave a company to say, hey, I love your work.
Right. Yeah. Send some love over to Jason A. Stryker right now for still being over there at Giant Bomb. But I mean, Leo, I guess, we went through kind of a vaguely similar thing about like leaving Game Informer. And it's like the idea that anybody from the outside world understood all the office dynamics at play that happened, like when just both of us left. It's like no one has any idea, and this just seems like a bigger version of that. Or maybe for us. Oh, go ahead.
Even for us, who maybe it was similar. Truly, who knows? It's like easy for me to project those emotions on what's going on there, and to catch myself as like, even I do not know what's going on. With them,
for sure. Mike Lynch writes in. He says, hello, cohorts. I've noticed that game dev studios being acquired by Sony and Microsoft is typically met positively, but with a critical eye by gamers and games media. The reaction to movie studio acquisitions by film journalists seems to be more on the hostile side. All the IP currently under the Disney Plus banner has journalists and film Twitter worried that they'll hide classic movies in their vault, while Disney has already made it harder for theaters to run older films they own. Why do you think people seem to have more faith in gaming companies than a company like Disney?
I think we've seen more of what Disney is, and Disney has way more of a history in film and other media. Like games is like one of the newest art forms to exist. Like the history is very small. You can find someone who's like 40 plus who's seen most of mainstream what we still talk about that's relevant. And that's not the same for any type of like medium. So I think that itself is unique. And then the other thing is, I think Disney is just such a powerhouse that, an acquisition by Disney, I think, well, at least for me, like I'm not a film critic, but like an acquisition by Disney, I also see what it means for that IP. And I think Disney is one of the clearest propagators of a quote from my friend and fellow critic and like now PR, Natalie Flores, super brilliant writer. Check her out. She once said on a podcast I was with on her that a story is over when capitalism says it is. And I think that's very true of Disney. And is it great that we've gotten more Star Wars? In some ways, sure. I like Star Wars. But I also know once Disney bought Star Wars, I knew that I would never stop getting Star Wars. Like, and that's just, going to be how it is because that's how they are. Versus, at least on the game side, I don't necessarily look at, Sony acquiring any studio and saying, now we're guaranteed like dozens of like different degrees of successful games from like this studio. I think also that part of it is like how hard development is and stuff. And also I think we see, at least I see Sony acquisitions oftentimes as Sony adding to their repertoire, making their console more appealing, and also potentially providing benefits to that studio that they didn't previously have. So I think even if it's not super accurate, I sort of see it as a little bit more of an autonomy and support thing rather than Disney like eating things.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Also, I still go to Disney World and stuff. Like, this is not me saying I'm above the mouse. Like, I got the ears. Like,
yeah, look, you're on board.
But then I'm also like, capitalism. But then I'm like, let me buy this overpriced slushie. Like, it's complicated.
Yeah, whereas
Disney Plus.
Yeah, Microsoft's approach to buying a studio, we haven't seen too many crashing and burning. If EA buys a studio, I feel like there's a little bit more of a history there that people can apply to it, where, maybe not the most optimistic take, but with Microsoft, at least recently, this kind of new wave of Microsoft acquisitions under kind of newer leadership, we haven't seen too many disaster cases yet.
Also, I think it's an issue of, you hear about game studio closures every week. And the idea that like, oh, they're more reliable now, like they have more resources, they can do more, is exciting, versus like this was already doing good stuff and now who knows what they are going to do and can do in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Travis Brinkley writes in, he says, "Hey, MinnMax, I thought I'd try to come up with a game for you, so here it is. I've gone through a list of different games, remasters/remakes, and chosen the most unique names that aren't just Definitive Edition, for you to guess which games they're a part of." Okay, so the name of the remaster, guess the name of the game.
Nice.
Scholarship Edition.
We buzzing with our names?
You can just
Or what?
say your guess.
Bully.
There we go. Nitro Fueled.
Crash Team Racing.
Awesome. War Mastered Edition.
A Warhammer thing?
Nope. The main character's name is War.
And Peace? No.
History.
History. Darksiders, everybody.
Oh, God.
It's all right. This
All
one
right.
is Life Thracier. Odin Sphere, ladies and gentlemen. All right, this one's for you,
Wow.
Sarah. Infinite. What game was remastered or remade? And it was, I believe the producer was an old coworker of yours.
Infinite? Oh. Is that it's not Res Infinite. Is
Yeah, it's Res Infinite.
Okay,
there
cool,
we go. Okay, layup here. We got Kiwami.
Yakuza.
There we go. Rehydrated.
Oh, SpongeBob.
Killing it. Reignited trilogy.
Spyro.
Wow, there we go. Thanks, Travis.
I got all like no shade to those games, but I got like all of a very specific era of time.
Yeah, that's fair. Steven Sell writes in. He says, "Hey there, what is the last thing you did for the first time?" It's one of those questions that'll really haunt you for a while. This is an excellent question.
Yeah, for me, it'd probably be roller skating. I mean, I could be petty and be like, when I got my first dose of the vaccine, also get your vaccine, everyone. I could say that, but that's like a really cheap answer. So yeah, I would say roller skating was the last time I did something for the first time. I started in January and I kind of didn't go out super often to learn. I've picked it up a lot more and I'm definitely not good. Like y'all have seen the videos. I'm not good. I post them on Twitter. I know I don't look good. I look like I'm moving in slow motion, but I can move. Like I can put them on. I can get from one place to the other. I can at one point start moving and I can come to a stop. Is it a stop that I did on my own volition? Did I just run out of speed? We're not going to talk about that.
Right.
The fact of the matter is I can start, I can stop, I can sit back down. It's been fun.
I just bought roller skates.
Yes.
Don't say that.
Inline.
They're coming on Friday.
Are they quad or inline?
They're quad. I can do inline.
What brand?
Impala because they were the cheapest.
Trash.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a really good starter one from what I've heard. Have you? So like, what got you into it? Like, what made you decide to pick it up?
It's so trendy now, right? Like all the girls on TikTok are spinning around on their roller skates, and I'm like, I want to be hot and trendy in my roller skates, and now I'm like, I don't know how to move, and I don't know how to stop.
Oh my God, we have to.
Like,
we should definitely.
When I do, it'll be hot girl summer. Okay?
We definitely need to talk and have like a MinnMax skate session because I've spent a lot of time. Like my roommate also picked it up too, and like she's been great at like doing the research of like how to change your bearings and what a bearing is and stuff like that, and cleaning that out and getting different wheels. I was rolling with like wheels that were too small outside for like a long time, which was a lot, but yeah, it was not good. I was like, why is this so hard for me? It wasn't just me. But yeah, like a lot of like YouTube tutorials and TikTok. I also got into it because of TikTok, just because I'm like, I want to like put on my music and like just vibe. But to do that, you need to put on like your music and just fall a lot. So, but after that, like we're really going to start to build it up. But it's been such a fun hobby to get to try something outside where I'm not like playing a game or looking at my phone. It's just such a joy. But yeah, we should definitely talk offline about skating and stuff.
How to skate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you say you're not looking at your phone, but you are for those cool TikTok replays as you make sure it's the exact right shot of you roller skating.
I pulled up a tutorial for sure. And there's like a lot of great like quick hit ones of just literally me just trying to do any moment, bubbles, whatever it is. But yeah, it's been good.
Leo, can you think of the last thing you did for the first time?
All that comes to mind is beating a song on Expert Plus and Beat Saber this week.
That's
not
fine.
really a new experience. That's more a new achievement.
Maybe this is insane. It is insane, but I was thinking about like, I think, just made some random joke about jumping out of a cake. And then I was thinking about it like, I don't know. I think I'd like to hide in a cake and jump, fully clothed, mind you. This isn't some pervert town. But wouldn't it be fun to hide in a cake at some point in your life and jump out? Like, are we all just going to die without jumping out of the cake?
There's no shame in having your own hot girl summer, Ben. Like, this is a safe space for like how you want to honor hot girl summer in your own way.
So I should just buy a giant cake and hide inside of it, wait for my girlfriend to come home and just surprise her and her alone.
I mean, well, I hope she'd be surprised because I hope that wouldn't be a regular occurrence. Sounds expensive.
You're right.
It could be fun. Obviously, like as a woman, that's inherently like very sexualized. So I probably wouldn't want to come out of a cake, but the idea of doing a grandiose celebration is inherently appealing. Like I always go pretty all out for birthdays, but yeah. It's not a real cake though, right? It's like paper.
I think that's like the outside is like a real cake, but yeah, for your next grandiose birthday, if you want me to jump out of that cake in a non-sexualized way, just give me the call. I'm happy to jump over there.
Hell yeah. But you gotta add that part. Or else people
Don't think about sex right now.
What I paid for. Asterisk. Patreon tier. Make it happen.
Okay, perfect. Taylor C writes in and says, I watched a bit of the MinnMax stream of new Pokémon Snap and I had a great time. I was so happy to see Ben and best friend Ronnie hanging out in real life. You guys bring a chaotic, fun energy to each other. Yeah, it was a bit insane, but thank you for watching that. It says, cohorts, are you looking forward to hanging out with your close pals in real life? What's the first outing you look forward to having with your friends? For me, my closest two friends and I love trashy chain restaurants, so we intend to visit Red Lobster together once we all get vaxxed to the MinnMax, he says. That sounds like a perfect trip.
Nice.
Leo, do you have a goal in mind, the first big hangout?
Me and my online friends had an IRL meetup like right before quarantine happened. And so now we're going to do one right after quarantine happened. And both times it's very important that we go to Buca di Beppo.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It was an iconic part of our experience last time, and it will be again.
And what is that?
Family style dining.
It's just family style dining?
You don't know what Buca di Beppo is?
I don't think so.
You could have said any word there, and I would have been like... Is it spelled the way it sounds in that I can't spell or pronounce it right?
What is magical about it, Leo?
It's just like, Olive Garden Italian food, but in bigger amounts. And it's really yummy.
That sounds perfect.
Oh, yeah. Now it came up. I didn't spell it right at all. Okay. That's interesting.
That's interesting, Leo. I support it.
That's interesting, yeah.
Ricky Winterborn writes in and he says, I always wondered why my parents never had even an inkling to try video games growing up. But now that I'm 31 and I refuse to download TikTok, I'm realizing that I'm hitting that grumpy point in my life where I resist the next popular thing. Am I weird or is this normal? Are y'all excited to start skipping big cultural fads? I think that's normal, but you're right. Like that is the sign, Ricky, that you're fading into obscurity is when you just refuse to get on the train. Like Leo and I, we haven't bought roller skates and filmed ourselves for TikTok yet. We are getting older at an exponential rate at this point.
We still ride penny farthing bicycles.
On Vine.
Oh, God. Not the Vine stands.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Vine.
I don't know. Sarah and Janet, you two seem hip. Like, are you like militant about whatever new crap people are talking about?
I don't know what the kids
are
doing. They go, shee now. And like, I don't know what that means. And then they do
the
like
ice in my veins.
What am I doing? So
it's from
on
like
that
one basketball player who liked it, which I learned on TikTok. Like they explained it because I didn't know. I don't follow the NBA like that. Yeah, right. So you do know it though. Like, I don't. Sarah, I'd love to hear like your perspective on this. Like, what is your age, if you don't mind me asking? I don't know.
26.
27, yo! Okay, we're the same age. Okay. So, like, I don't have any, there's nothing I've ever seen and been like, I'm not going to do this specifically because I feel like it's from the kids or from Gen Z.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you end up being later to stuff because you're not like as in the know. Like younger people are always the first to do something. Like my brother told me that like I've been on Twitter for 10 years, so I was one of the like earlier people on Twitter, and he's like, yeah, like this is him, he's 6 years older than me. He's like, when I first got on Twitter, a lot of people in my circle were like, that's just for like younger kids, and it's true. I learned about it from like you, who was my like teenage sister at the time, but like it was great. And look, Twitter's still here, and I think TikTok is. One, already kind of become that, and two, further going to become it as it gains even more and more popularity. Like people always say like, oh, I don't want to go on TikTok because I don't dance and I'm not a 13-year-old girl.
Yep.
But like my For You page it's mostly not dancing. It's a lot of like roller skate stuff. It's a lot of recipe. Like you know, if y'all want to miss out because you feel like you're too old, I guess you can do that. But like, I don't think there's anything wrong with jumping in on stuff. I don't feel weird about it. I think also because I'm in a household, and obviously y'all are also my peers who are in media, where it's very much like getting in on certain apps is part of promoting your stuff. And like, if you want to be grumpy and not promote on one platform, you can, but you might be missing out. So I don't necessarily get that feeling. The closest thing I get is I feel like it's harder for me to keep up with music these days because I very much do default into what everyone says will happen, which has already happened to me, where I'm only listening to stuff that I listened to in high school and college. But, you know, I'm working on kind of branching out of that. But also, I don't know, I feel okay with that. I think it's all about enjoying life. And like, if you think TikTok will add value to your life and you're excited, sure. If you don't, that's fine. But I don't think it's necessarily good to say, I'm not doing X thing because I am like too old.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a good philosophy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I personally feel so burdened. I feel the weight of the yoke on my neck to figure out what she means whenever I go on TikTok. And all I want to do is to fade into obscurity. All I want to do is live on a compound with people my age, and we quote SpongeBob. We quote SpongeBob, The Office, Parks and Rec, and we talk about the baseball scene from Twilight.
Yeah.
And that's all I want. That's my comfort. That's my comfort zone. It's my comfort food.
No new culture allowed.
No new cultural relevance.
It is weird to be at a point in society where I feel like too much nostalgia going on. Like, it's getting to the point of like, okay, cool it. I like my childhood a lot too, but like, I don't need a Gargoyles reboot. I mean, in my heart, I need a Gargoyles reboot, but like, there's
Are you
just
gonna watch it though?
Oh, of course. I mean, I would be there day
Well,
one.
then that's like, you feel like that? Like maybe you are part of the problem,
Of
right?
course.
Like, yeah, I call it nostalgia, basically.
I get it. But it's a bad sign when I'm annoyed by the nostalgic comebacks that are exactly up my alley, because I know now the rest of my life is going to be nostalgic revivals for stuff that I have no frame of reference for. When it's like, Wizards of Waverly Place is coming back. I'm just going to be more and more detached, and then I'm going to just probably go hang out on that commune.
Yeah. No, you're
That's a good
invited.
plan.
We talk about how the new Lizzie McGuire remake got absolutely destroyed, and now we don't get it anymore.
Yeah, because like she wanted to make it too mature, and they wanted to Disney-fy it.
Yeah, there was just some like disagreement with how it should work out, and then it didn't happen, and maybe that's for the best.
Yeah, I think it probably
maybe
was.
we'll just do the hey now, and that's this is what dreams are made, and that's what
Sometimes
we
the
sing
dreams
on
are
our
already made. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's time to walk away.
That was it. That was the peak.
Yeah,
Lizzie McGuire, downhill from there.
definitely. Jake Zielsdorf writes in, and he says, hey, since everyone likes to talk about value per dollar nowadays, which game is more worth its price, Returnal or Pokémon Snap? This is one of those very tricky questions.
Always depends on the player. I mean, I'm a big, I did thumbs up this question because I do like the discussion, but I'm also a big proponent of trying never to really equate price in a way that's that deep. And I think it cuts both ways. If a game is good, it's good. If a game isn't that good, it's not good. And I think sometimes we are, especially with the AAA space, are tempted to say like, oh, well, like, I feel like Pokemon Snap should have been $40. And it would have been cool if it was 40 in the sense that it's cheaper, because who doesn't want cheaper games?
Yeah.
But like what we're really saying there is that something in it is kind of lacking. And I think it's okay to admit that, you know, like I don't think we need to, sometimes we try to like use price to avoid really discussing the quality of the game, which is like, it's kind of a red herring for like talking about the quality, like, you know, and you'll see in the opposite too, where it's like, oh, it's crazy that it's only like this $10 or only $30 for Hades. One of the best, you know, it's like, really, Hades is dope. Hades was dope at $30. It would be dope at $70. It would be dope at $10. Like, it's a dope game. And that's why we don't need to talk about the price of Hades. I feel like when you feel the need to talk about price, it speaks to how you feel the quality of the game is. And also your maybe reluctance to check it out. I'm not above price either. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like, oh, I'm just here for the art. I'll pay anything. I wish list stuff that I'm hesitant about all the time. Because yes, I just don't feel like paying full price for something that I might not enjoy. And I think that's totally okay too. We all have different budgets, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like get Returnal because there's more bang for your buck. I think you should get Returnal over Pokemon Snap because I think Returnal is a better game. I don't know. Maybe $70 is nothing to you. Maybe it is everything to you. So I'm not going to impose that and make a call.
Yeah.
I can tell you what I think, and then you know your own taste and can kind of parse it out from there. Like, I don't know your budget. I don't know what your light bill is, what your gas bill is, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's impossible. And like for, reviewers to take price into account, I think is a mistake naturally. But like, of course this stuff comes up. Like my friends were asking me about Returnal. I was like, yeah, it's cool. $70, like, I don't, like, it's probably going to be on PS Plus within a year. Like, $70 is a lot of money.
The jump does make, I think, the conversation come up again, because like someone was asking me about that too. They were like, oh, well, now that 70, do you think like there'll be more reluctance? I think we definitely will be having a, with 70 though, conversation until 70 feels normal, which I think will take 1 to 2 years, which is, that's just how prices are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about Returnal more. It's like Housemarque games have always been so good. And not enough people have bought them. And I worry about Returnal now if the conclusion is going to be like, well, enough people didn't buy it. But really what was turning a lot of people away was that this is one of the first big $70 games for the generation. And so it's that $7 price tag combined with the genre is now going to be maybe another ding to hurt Housemarque, which sucks when they turned out such a great game.
It's like the most popular niche thing I've seen in a long time, where everyone's talking about it, but it's such like a niche thing from it's 70. It is like a roguelite or like one of those two.
Yeah.
Sure. It's sci-fi, so like nothing makes sense at first because it takes forever to learn the lore. Like, but everyone's really enjoying it, and hopefully that transcends. I think too, like the reason price conversations become increasingly antiquated is in the era of Game Pass, what is price? Dragon Quest Builder 2 is free for me right now because I have Game Pass.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if it was a lot of bang for my buck because I paid the $15 already. So now it ends up being like a not as useful conversation in an era where there are so many services, where things get discounted. Like, if I give a game a 7 and it goes on sale, is it now an 8? Like,
right.
No.
Yeah.
So then I think kind of reframing that is helpful, because usually when someone asks that, they're asking a different kind of question than is it worth $20 or whatever.
Yeah, but to get to the core of Jake's question, which is more worth its price, the answer is Pokemon Snap. Grizzled Gaming writes in and says, hey, friends with 2 N's, we've talked games, but how about getting better? Do any of you consider yourself to generally be an anxious person? And if so, what are some ways you found to help control anxiety when it creeps up?
I'll let y'all tell me how to fix my anxiety, because I've been waiting for the answer for a minute.
You tell me.
Oh, crap. I was looking for Grizzled Gaming to tell us.
I come from a long line of anxious German women. It is our pride. It is the legacy that lives on in this family. And generally, what I do is video games, which might be a little unhealthy, but it does help to take your mind off the angst, the anxiety. And in college, when I got really overwhelmed, I did this thing where I would go under a blanket and curl up in a ball and pretend I was a rock.
In college?
And that also, in college, like during finals week, there was a moment my senior year where I got into this habit of like getting under a blanket whenever I felt overwhelmed, curling up into a ball and pretending I was a rock in a stream. And I was like, rocks don't have to do papers. I'm a rock. I don't have like 5 final papers due. I'm a motherfucking rock. Like, not my problem.
All I think about is the stream.
Yeah, it's used the stream. The stream was the blanket. It's beautiful, relaxing.
And now you do stream, so it's like
now
it
I
all
stream on
comes
Twitch.
together. You are the rock on Twitch.tv.
I've kind of like harnessed my anxiety like the Hulk. Like whenever something comes up that I get kind of nervous about, or like maybe it's outside my comfort zone, I just think about how I'm always anxious and like what's one more log on the fire of my anxieties. So I've kind of harnessed it to be a superpower in a way.
That's beautifully horrifying.
But if you are struggling with anxiety, please go see a therapist and
Yeah.
probably get drugs.
Yes, definitely, for sure. I found with Better Quest, I think like the first month of our Better Quest show, new episode coming up on Thursday, by the way, so you can set a new goal for yourself in the month of May. But I started meditating, and that has helped a decent amount. Is I do like a 10-minute meditation before like every big recording here at MinnMax, and like especially interviews where I get pretty nervous ahead of time, like getting everything fully set up, all the tech, all the lights on, notes up, windows resized, everything ready to go, and then I go and meditate until right before the interview starts. I feel like that really helps me focus down a little bit. And I think we've talked about it before, but for me, a big thing with my anxiety was realizing like, oh, I can slow down. When I get nervous, I talk faster, but when I'm already talking 2 times as fast as everybody else, I can basically set myself into bullet time and just slow down and take my time. And that just feels so comforting to know that, oh, if I'm just buying groceries at the grocery store, I can go at half speed and no one's going to call me out as a weirdo, and I can just be that much more in control of the situation. Like, you're still...
We need to do an episode, Ben, where you and I talk as fast as we can while still understanding each other.
Yeah.
Like a speedrun podcast, and see how much content we can get, because I also am a fast stalker.
It's like Superman versus the Flash racing each other at the end of Justice League. Yeah.
It would be quite the sight to see. But Sarah, I love that you brought up just go to therapy if this is like an actual question, because obviously we're not licensed in any way. Like, we're just content creators who are anxious. But
I am not a well-adjusted adult. Please do not look to me for help and/or advice.
Try to keep it brief. I've definitely struggled with anxiety a lot. I think my pinnacle also was college. And I've gone to therapy before as well, which I found very valuable. Even without medication, if you choose not to do that, because I didn't have anything like that. And I think in my day-to-day, I find having loved ones in my life to talk to, who I know directly, weighted blanket goes a long way. Just like sleeping better, resting better. I think too, just like always backing up and taking care of yourself. One piece of advice I got from Jared Petty before I started like my Patreon venture and this year and everything. He's like, you're really going to want to like dive into everything. And I know you're like, there's a million things to do, and I'm still not at all done with building my content, but he's like, before you plan out any of that, I want you to sit down and plan out what does taking care of yourself and your household look like? Because if you don't plan it now, you will not be able to fit it into your hectic schedule. So you have to put the stuff that you feel like is the most important, like your content, that has to be around all this other stuff. So I think things like that are important. Keeping things in check. There's so many different strategies out there to cope and deal with it. So I think it's important to have like a big toolbox of things. And maybe one of those tools is therapy. Maybe one of them is your family. Maybe one is exercise. Like, again, not a professional. This is just from my personal experience with it. But yeah, that's kind of a quick run through of it.
And Leo,
I got this dog. But the dog also has anxiety. Yes. So now we just have matching anxiety.
Which is the perfect segue to Connor McCabe's question. He says, hey, Ben, Janet, Leo, and Sarah, have you ever discussed the pets of MinnMax? I gotta know about the lovable furballs, scaled buds, and feathered cuties in your lives.
Of course, mine is well established on this channel. Doctor, he's almost always on my lap. Not anymore. We're struggling because we've got this younger one who's eating all the food all the time. And so we're trying to figure out how to like feed them separately or monitor them when they're eating. But Doctor and Hank, the two loves of my life.
They're cats, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was really trying to guess, and I was waiting for like a hint of what it was.
Yeah, I don't have a pet. Although I was talking about how much I love lizards, and like grew up with a lot of lizards and stuff. And somebody in the Discord the other day was like, "I will buy you a lizard. Just tell me the address, and I'll ship a lizard there." I'm like, "Look, I like lizards."
Is that a threat?
Yeah, I will ship so many freaking lizards to your house. But I turned it down politely. But I would love to have a lizard again in the future. But yeah, I grew up with cats and dogs and all that stuff.
I have a cat currently. I'm trying to see if I can get it to come in here. Not by like calling it because it's not that advanced.
I thought you were texting it. I thought you picked up your phone and you were like texting it.
Okay, the cat is here. So I'm having my boyfriend Isaiah walk her over. You can see Bruce in all her glory. She a chunky girl. This is Bruce.
For the audio listeners.
Is that a Russian blue?
Filter off. I don't know what kind of cat she is because she was adopted. But yeah, her name's Bruce because when my boyfriend got her, they were like, this is a boy cat. So he's like, Bruce for Batman. And then they're like, actually, this is a girl. And we just like left. Well, he just left it. So when we moved in together, I like have this cat because the cat was already living with Isaiah. And this is my first time having a pet. And I have loved having a pet. I think it's like, I just can't recommend it enough. I was shocked by how much value it added. Like I always kind of thought that the people who were like, oh my God, I love my pet so much. Like always tweeting about it. I'm like, it's kind of weak. That's kind of extra. Like it seems kind of like I don't relate to it. But then when I actually had an animal in my life, I'm like, oh no, I totally get what everyone means and how enriching it is. So if you've never had a pet, someone shouts at Jan's stepcat. Yes, my stepcat. If you've never had a pet, I recommend it. And Bruce is super chill, probably in large part because Isaiah trained her to not destroy our entire apartment before I got there. So it's very convenient.
Was Isaiah like standing just off camera with the cat the entire podcast waiting for this?
Yep.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
No, he was like out doing his actual job of being a web developer. But I texted him and I'm like, can you bring the cat in?
There we go.
And then I called him but like with the intention of just getting his like iPhone attention, and then he walked it in. I feel like Isaiah's used to weird content requests at this point in my career that he's like, all right, I'm holding this cat for like looking at a screen of people I've never met before. Like this is just Wednesday.
Yeah, and Sarah, your dog is just in every shot here.
Yeah. This is what my stream requested. I think they just show up for my dog. My dog's name is Poggers, as in Poggers, my doggers.
Nice.
He is a Chihuahua Jack Russell Terrier mix. So all the anxiety with all the athleticism of a small dog. He's an LA boy. He's a California boy, very much so. His hobbies are sitting on me, being with me, and eating things he's not supposed to.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So if you watch us on Twitch, guaranteed lots of Poggers coverage. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Sarah, what do you like for question of the week? What do you like?
Oh, what I like.
There's pets and there's anxiety. First thing you did for the last time, remastered stuff, giant bomb stuff.
I liked the one where I got to talk about my compound where we only quote SpongeBob. Mm-hmm. That one. The one about, is it keeping up with the Joneses, but the Joneses are teenagers.
Yeah. Does everybody else like that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. That's Ricky Winterborn. Congratulations. You win the Ape Out vinyl from I Am 8-Bit. Congratulations. And thanks to everybody else who submitted a question over at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Now it's time for something we like to call Get a Load of This. Leo, will you share your tidbit, sir?
Get a load of this. This is
Okay.
a classic one for a special occasion. It's just a Twitter thread from @Yelix. Please reply with your favorite classic giant bomb clips, quotes, etc. I want a thread people can revisit down the line. And it is a thread full of everybody sharing their favorites. And there's a couple threads of these going around, but a lot of them were like, the most popular giant bomb clips on YouTube. But there are some deeper cuts in here that I enjoyed, had never seen before.
Yeah. Does anything stand out?
Let me see
All
here.
of it. All of it. All of it's great.
So many memories running through his head right now.
I am not familiar with Giant Bomb. I was never really familiar with it, but that thread really caught me up on why I should be sad that the people are leaving. I was like, damn, feels like I missed out on something good.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's say Giant Bomb Streamception is the one I'll call out.
Okay, great. There's links below for all these things. Yeah, I mean, I think I've talked about it in a couple of our interviews with former Giant Bomb folks, which, by the way, thank you for the avalanche of people tweeting at me saying, oh my God, now you can interview all these people leaving Giant Bomb, because we kind of have a trend rolling. No plans for that yet. I feel like you need to kind of let people adjust a little bit and maybe simmer down a little bit before maybe we talk to them. But yeah, one of my favorite Giant Bomb moments is to get back to the original question from a while ago was like, the Game of the Year stuff is definitely up there. E3 and Game of the Year are probably the two big temples in my mind for Giant Bomb coverage. But specifically, it's frickin' Vinny, on the Game of the Year discussions, like for maybe the last 2 years, when he's been talking about his favorite moments in games, he'll break down and start crying about these emotional moments in the games. Breakdown is maybe a much, but he'll start crying. And my favorite thing specifically is that he does not apologize for it, which everybody else would say, I'm sorry, oof, this is weird, I don't know what's going on. He just fully owns it, and there's never even a hint of an apology. It is the coolest crying on a podcast move I've ever heard in my life. Much better than every time we cry on podcasts, and it's nothing but, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, internet.
Can I share my favorite Vinny memory I just remembered?
Yeah.
It was years and years ago, before the Beastcast was a thing, and Vinny taking over the podcast was a special thing, when they're out of town or whatever. And Patrick Klepek was telling this boring story about Portillo's, not boring, but a very nothing story. And Vinny just edited it like this super produced NPR piece with like music swelling, like breaks between the segments and stuff. And then it just ended super abruptly because it was such a nothing story. It was very funny.
Yeah, it's very sweet. Sorry we went back down Giant Bomb route, but it's very sweet that like Brad Shoemaker had a tweet talking about, him announcing he was leaving, and he had a follow-up tweet just being like, by the way, I just want to point out that, Vinny is an absolute champion. He is exactly as good as he seems like he is, and we couldn't do this without him. And it's just a very nice detour from him just to celebrate Vinny a little bit more. So it's very sweet to see. Anyways, hey everybody, get a load of this. There's an article from the New Yorker all about the Simpsons writer John Swartzwelder, who is a legendary Simpsons writer from the first 12 seasons, maybe something like that. I forget exactly when he left, maybe 2003, something like that. But he is a very cryptic guy. No one really knows what he looks like. There's a lot of rumors that he doesn't even exist, that he's just like an amalgamation of different writers. But New Yorker has an interview with him, and there's some interesting tidbits in there, like he prefers to write while at a diner. And so he eventually bought a booth from a diner and installed it in his house so he could write Simpson scripts at a diner, like on the big cushy seat.
So cool.
And then,
that's the dream.
I know. And then he said he actually went and bought another one. So he had 2 diner seats on different parts of his house, which is
It's like
weird.
living in an Animal Crossing house. Basically.
Exactly. But he had this good bit of advice here. He says, since writing is very hard and rewriting is comparatively easy and rather fun, I always write my scripts all the way through as fast as I can, the first day, if possible, putting in crap jokes and pattern dialogue. Homer, I don't want you to do that. Then I won't do it. Then the next day, when I get up, the script's been written. It's lousy, but it's a script. The hard part is done. It's like a crappy little elf has snuck into my office and badly done all my work for me, then left with a tip of his crappy hat. All I have to do from that point on is fix it. So I've taken a very hard job writing and turned it into a very easy one, rewriting overnight. And I advise all writers to do their scripts and other writing this way, which is a very good way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. That's the advice I got in college. They were like, write it, put it down, put anything down, and then fix it later.
Yeah, especially like creatively, just like whatever, get some form of a scene down.
Yeah.
Sarah, did you have one?
Yeah, get a load of this. It was really bothering me that the medals in Pokemon Snap were called sweet medals. And then I noticed a Japanese user who was getting a lot of sweet exclamation point medals said, thank you for the apple medals. And I was like, the apple medals? So I went down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out the names in Japanese. The sweet medals are just called Ringo Medaru, which is just apple medal. And fluff fruit in Japanese is called Furaringo, which is just a play off of fuwari, or fuwa, which is soft, and ringo, which is apple. So it's just called soft apple in Japanese, but we got fluff fruit, and then the medals are apple medals, and we got sweet medals.
And that's subpar for you.
I talked about this a little bit on my stream, but I was like reading it and I was like, I feel like they put the localization B team on this. I don't want to shade it.
Ooh,
And I really apologize.
I mean,
But that was my thought.
It's not Treehouse, right? I would imagine that it was the Pokemon Company, which I don't want to critique them too much, but some of the writing in the Pokemon RPGs is pretty weak. So I don't know. But the weird thing of them just not calling them apples, it's so bizarre.
And they're called apples in Japanese.
Right.
So I'm confused.
Good. Janet, you got one?
Yeah, get a load of this. ESPN and Marvel debuted their first ever Marvel-inspired NBA special edition of like one of the games. So essentially, like they had the game running on, I think it was just on ESPN, and it was like a Marvel collab. So they brought in someone who's like does a Marvel podcast. I forgot the name of the woman who like came in to help like also commentate. And the trippy thing is, and y'all should look this up if you didn't like catch it live. Again, with the sports stuff, because my brother is into sports, so I just kind of secondhand get all the sports info. But I'm like, wait, this is actually interesting to me. They add like special effects to stuff. So literally, like one person like either did a dunk or just made a basket, and it said like Hulk smash on the all over the rim. It was the most bizarre thing ever. And they even added in like additional types of scoring. They still had the game normal, like it was a regular game, but they had like an additional scoring that was like, who's the hero of the match? I forgot like who got it from this match or whatever, but it was based on like, you got all these different points for doing different things. So it was very much like a gamified Marvel stickered version of an NBA game. And it was just wild to see. And this is not the first like time we've seen anything like trippy like this in the sports space, but I think it was the first of this specific type of collab. So it was really interesting to just see it in action, and it was kind of cool, but also really ridiculous. I feel like it's worth just taking a glance at. I'm not someone that follows the NBA at all, but I just had to see how weird all of that looked.
Yeah, I definitely want to check that out. That's so bizarre. From the community in the Discord, I mean, Leafeon submitted, oh boy, this is a whole can of worms, but it was basically the breakdown from the Epic Game Store for how much Epic paid to lock down these games in the Epic Game Store as a exclusive. And this is all coming out because of the Epic versus Apple court case, where it seems like all the court filings have just been uploaded to some Google Drive or something, and now all the industry secrets like, hey, Walmart's working on a streaming platform, or here's the emails with Sony about them refusing crossplay and their argument about how Sony doesn't benefit from it, or hey, here's the fact that Borderlands 3 for that exclusivity cost $146 million, but they ended up making $110 million back. So many good stories are floating out there, but this breakdown of all these games and how much they cost is really fascinating. There's a link below, but just, okay, Subnautica, to make that an exclusive, that was $1.4 million. Last day of June, the indie game, $75,000. Enter the Gungeon was $700,000. If you want just a good peek behind the curtain, definitely look into this Epic versus Apple stuff, because there's a lot of good industry secrets that maybe shouldn't be secrets that are just now blown out the door, and I don't know, the judge couldn't keep it secret. So, and please enjoy.
Cool.
It's pretty cool. Plugs. What's coming up? We have Crossfade, our standalone music podcast. You can subscribe to it on your favorite podcast app. This Friday's episode is with Todd Hansen, who's a writer for The Onion. He's a voice on Squidbillies, also a writer for that. He was on Aqua Teen Hunger Force, so it should be interesting. They're talking about Beach Boys, and I forget the other band. Obviously, Sarah, do you have something to plug?
Am I supposed to be plugging my stream on Tuesday with MinnMax, or the stream tomorrow? Or my personal streams?
Just follow your heart. You can't go wrong.
Okay. You can find me on Twitch at SarahPods. You can find me on Twitter at SarahPods. You can also find me Tuesday nights on the MinnMax channel. Having a good time, hopefully. I don't know. We're going to be playing Resident Evil, so it might be a little stressful.
Yeah, she'll be screaming a lot, guaranteed. The dog's going to be scared. It's all going to be there. But yeah, that's twitch.tv/MinnMax show. And then, yeah, on Thursday, we'll be streaming some co-op games as well. So jump in there and say hi. We'd appreciate the follow on Twitch. Also, get ready for the deepest dive on Mass Effect 1. That's going to be coming up. First episode will be airing on the 19th. And we're looking for your feedback on the first section on the 17th. Also, yeah, new episode of Better Quest and is out this week. And then also Trivia Tower, our community video game trivia show. The new episode's going to be on Monday, May 17th. And Greg Miller from Kinda Funny is going to be the co-host for that one. So if you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can jump in and put your knowledge of video games to the test by competing in this multi-round video game trivia contest. And the last person winning wins an Astro A40 headset, but then we have a bunch of game codes to give away as well. So we appreciate the support. And $2, you can jump in there and compete video game trivia and impress Senpai Greg Miller. Nothing better than that. So we'd appreciate the support. Cool. Anything else we didn't hit? Janet, how you feeling?
Good as always, pretty much. That was kind of a lie, but I feel good. But yeah, still doing the same stuff everywhere on the internet. At Game Honestest everywhere, Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff. And yeah, another awesome episode.
There we go. Thanks so much, everybody. And thanks to the following Patreon supporters for their generous support of MinnMax at the $50 tier. You can get your name here by supporting us on Patreon at the $50 tier, but I'm talking about Fixture Gaming. Call me by your game podcast. I am 8-Bit, Rainmaker.gg, Mirko Arico-Torreno, Zachary Pligge, BeatenDownBrian, Andrew Uerkwitz, Jawarhello, Real AFTV, Mark Seliga, Ludwig Roque, PrettyGoodPrinting.com, Andrew Vala, Yarrow, SpiralInYourEyes, Richard Smuts, Clint Farley, Spider Dan, Preetham Yarlagadd, Clayton Myers, Starkiller, Steve Bamdad, Jesse Vitelli, and SlyckNic. Thank you so much, everybody. Be good, have fun, let's go.